parents also believed in the importance of indigenous Yoruba cultural values and of working within the larger culture around them. Like many later Pan-Africanists, they advocated the intelligent selection of progressive values and institutions from westernized Christianity and African society. Coming from such a family, he must have experienced a lot of pressure to enter the clergy, but he rejected this career in favor of a more worldly career. He took a job as a clerk at the Lagos Department of Public Works in 1881. In July 1890, the government sent him abroad for further training under G.D. Bellamy of Plymouth. 3 years later, he qualified as a civil engineer, the first Nigerian in this profession. On his return to Lagos, the government made him a surveyor of crown lands in Lagos. However, he soon became dissatisfied with the conditions of his employment. Like many of his African colleagues, he hated the two-tier system then existed in government service, whereby British civil servants enjoyed better conditions and much higher salaries than Africans. Thus, in 1898, Macaulay decided to go into private practice as a licensed surveyor and architect. His practice, however, was not very successful. Constantly in financial distress, he took advantage of his position as executor of the estate of a family dependent from which he misappropriated funds. Unfortunately, this act became known to the authorities and he was tried and sentenced to 2 years imprisonment. While many sympathized with him because of the extenuating circumstances of his large extended family, this event meant that he could never become a candidate for public office. Now, barred from elective public office, Macaulay made his mark in politics through journalism and political organizations and various advisory capacities. Between 1890 and 1927, he was a frequent contributor to the Nigerian Chronicle. In 1927, Macaulay joined forces with his friend Dr. John Akilade Colcrick, a physician and politician, to buy the Lagos Daily News, the first daily newspaper in British West Africa, founded in 1925. Macaulay decided on political tone of the paper. This provided his platform for his battles against the government and his African political opponents. During the 1920s, a period in Nigerian history associated with the beginning of political agitation for self-rule, Macaulay became a leading figure in the first generation of Nigerian nationalists. In 1921, Macaulay passionately led protests in Lagos over water rates, land issues, and mishandling of railway finances. In 1922, he helped a Lagos chief in his legal battle with the colonial government, who had forcefully taken some of his land for government purposes. The highest court in England heard the case and returned the land to the chief. This victory inspired Macaulay to establish in 1923 Nigeria's first political party, the Nigerian National Democratic Party, whose members were the first to sit in the Legislative Council. The NNDP was the first well-organized political party in Commonwealth West Africa. Its motto was Salus Populi Suprema Lex. The safety of the people is the greatest law. Its candidates won all the elective seats in the Nigerian legislature between 1923 and 1938. For fear that government might take action against him, Macaulay refused to hold any party office until 1930s. But in Lagos, there was no doubt that he was the driving force and real power behind the scenes. He maintained close ties with the first executive councils and was always present at NNDP public meetings. Further, he had extensive links with the masses of Lagosians through their traditional popular associations, particularly the Market Women Union and many vocational unions. He encouraged market women and elite women to take part in party activities, including speaking at its meetings. In 1931, relations with Macaulay and the British began to improve up to the point that the governor held conferences with Macaulay. In October 1938, the more radical Nigerian youth movement fought and won elections for the Lagos Town Councils, ending the dominance of Macaulay and his National Democratic Party. In order to avoid the demise of the party, Macaulay's NNDP joined forces with the Nigerian youth movement to form the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, NCNC. The NCNC, led by Macaulay, was not set out to be a political party. It was more of a nationalist organization designed to advocate for an independent Nigeria. In August 1944, however, he saw the leadership and strategy of the National Council of Nigeria and Cameroons, NCNC, offered had brilliant prospects in the struggle for self-government. Although many of his colleagues in the NNDP executive disagreed with him, he carried the day when he threatened to resign if they did not agree to enter into a coalition of interest groups. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the dynamic leader of the NCNC then, capitalized on Macaulay's decision to join the party. At this time, Macaulay was 80 years old, but still appeared physically strong and mentally alert. But his insistence in undertaking a strenuous campaign against the constitutional proposals of 1945 proposed by Governor Richards taxed his strength. While on the national tour, he suffered an acute attack of rheumatism and was forced to return to Lagos, where he died on 7th of May 1946. Huge crowds, estimated variously between 100,000 and 200,000, turned out in the streets to mourn, and all the markets closed for 2 full days. The leadership of the NCNC went to Azikiwe, who later became the first president of Nigeria. Macaulay was buried at Ikoyi Cemetery in Lagos on 11th of May 1946. Nnamdi Azikiwe delivered a funeral oration at Macaulay's burial ceremony. As is customary among the Yoruba, when a distinguished leader dies at an advanced age, his funeral became the occasion for a prolonged celebration of a life well lived and public service well acclaimed. He was survived by 2 children, Sarah Abigail Idowu Macaulay and Oliver Ogedengbe Macaulay.
Personality profile. Now you know.
Government tell us say police na our friend. I remember wetin my papa tell me. He say make I mind who I dey call my friend.
Young lady, you're under arrest.
Oga, for waiting now. What can I do?
When you get to the station, you find out.
Hey.
Look, don't show everybody don't drop out.
I say I know they follow you go anywhere.
Hey, you know they go anywhere. Go and ask about Officer Mark. You see, if I deal with you, nothing will happen. Nobody will question me. I will deal with you.
Oga, leave my clothes now. Wait. You won't take care of me. Oga.
Do you have 200,000?
200,000 for what now? Wetin I do where you want collect 200,000 from me?
If you get to the station, you pay more than that.
200k for waiting. I don't get that kind of money. I don't get that kind of money. Oga, remember, you were once like us before you got into force. You have brothers and sisters like us in this society. The law says protect lives and properties. But what do we see today?
This life don't last forever.
Please remember, we have just one life. Why can't we live for one another?
Things will get better if you just hold my hand.
This message is brought to you from Today95.1 FM, Voice of the People.
.1 FM, Voice of the People.
And we're back. When the weather becomes strict and everything becomes unsteady, the only way to go is tune to Today 95.1 FM. And the world of information, entertainment, and education will be served as breakfast lunch, and dinner.
Welcome to the show. You're listening to today's Quest. The newspaper review segment is what we've
Now
got.
who says I can't bring the party to your house right now? Because, even if it's raining, I still bring the heat right here.
I am here for you, and I know you are here for me.
It is surely the best 15 minutes of football you can find anywhere on radio. People.
Back here in the garden city of Port Harcourt. Today, 95.1 FM. Nothing but the best. Nothing but the best.
You can never plan the future by the past. He who has a white leaf can bear almost any out. Lost time is never found again. It is the province of knowledge to speak, and it is the privilege of wisdom to listen. I don't take life too seriously. You'll never get out of it alive. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. In the end. It is not the years in your life that counts. It is the life in your years. Make it count with us. Make it count with us at Today 95.1 FM. 95.1 FM.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
This president's failed.
It's about the future of this country.
We're going to take it back. We're going to take it back.
You asked us to vote you into that position so you can bring about that
solution.
So when you vote me, then you sleep.
Let me see if I can take another phone call. Hello, Today 95.1 FM. Good morning.
What makes a policeman to be able to feed is the gun he's holding. They use their gun to extort money from people.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
No longer news that we are truly the voice of the people.
Am I not a slave in Nigeria?
I refuse if you are.
You're a slave. Let's not get to that now. So the Nigerian is philosophical.
You spot the difference now?
It's that time on radio. Let's take you into the life and times of men and women who inspire, role models who have shaped the world.
Dr. Goodluck Ebele Azikiwe Jonathan, a native of Otueke in Obia local government area of Bayelsa State, was born to a humble Niger Delta family of canoe makers. He was born on November 20, 1957 to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Ebele Jonathan. His father, Lawrence Ebele Jonathan, was a poor canoe maker. His mother, Eunice, had given birth to several children, but only a few survived their childhood. Therefore, his father named him Goodluck, hoping that this child would change the fortunes of the family. Family sources disclose Jonathan displayed maturity and responsibility in his conduct as a child. These attributes earned him the nickname Azikiwe by his paternal grandmother, who saw in him leadership qualities similar to late Southeast statesman Nnamdi Azikiwe, who championed the cause of Nigeria's independence. He is married to Patience Jonathan, who is said to have a more forceful personality than her husband. In spite of the enchanting beauty of the Niger Delta and the pristine innocence of those times, rather than take after the family trade, the young Jonathan chose to go to school. He attended St. Stephen's and St. Michael's primary schools in Bayelsa State, finishing in 1969. He proceeded to Matidei High School in Meringi, where he passed his West African school certificate with flying colors in 1975. On completion of his secondary education, he worked as a preventive officer with the Nigerian Customs Service for 2 years before proceeding to the University of Port Harcourt as one of the pioneer students of the new university. As a child, he had been fascinated with nature, and growing up by the shores of the intertwining rivers and waterways of the Niger Delta, aquatic life was second nature. He obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in zoology with second-class upper honors from the University of Port Harcourt in Rivers State in 1981. In 1982, he was appointed as Science Inspector of Education, Rivers State Ministry of Education, while studying in between for his postgraduate degrees. He was awarded a Masters of Science in Hydrobiology and Fisheries in 1985 and a doctorate in zoology in 1995 from the University of Port Harcourt, Rivers State. But this was not until he had completed his mandatory 1 year of National Youth Service in Iresi, Old Oyo State, now Osun State of Nigeria. Jonathan worked as a Science Inspector of Education in the former Rivers State Civil Service Commission and as an academic in the Biology Department of the College of Education for 10 years. Between 1983 and 1993, he took up employment as a lecturer in the Department of Biological Science, River State College of Education. He voluntarily resigned his appointment with the college in 1993 to become Assistant Director of Ecology in the defunct Oil Minerals Producing Areas Development Commission, UMPADEC, in charge of environmental protection. Jonathan's first political experience came when he was nominated to be Chief DSP LMSA's running mate under the People's Democratic Party in a 1999 gubernatorial race. They won the elections and he served as a deputy governor from 1999 to 11 December 2005. Jonathan, Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State under Governor Alamessia and acting governor since Alamessia's impeachment, was sworn in as Bayelsa State Governor on 12 December 2005. Jonathan would complete the remaining 15 months of the current term. As governor, Jonathan had a strong development program, the Bayelsa Partnership Initiative, BPI, which focused on community-driven development. While Jonathan's development efforts in Bayelsa have been appreciated by some communities, they have not been able to quell the militant activities in the state. Jonathan served as governor of Bayelsa State for 18 months. It wasn't long before fate once again beckoned. Jonathan was busy preparing for re-election to his first full term as substantive governor when the PDP, which is the largest political party in Africa, nominated him as running mate to the presidential candidate Alhaji Umar Musa Yar'Adua. The 17th December 2006 announcement of the landslide victory of Obasanjo's peak as presidential candidate in the PDP convention seemed inevitable. However, Yar'Adua's announcement on December 18 of Bayelsa Governor Goodluck Jonathan, who has never declared aspirations to the villa as his running mate, was generally unexpected. After a keenly contested election, the Yar'Adua-Jonathan ticket won, and on May 2007, he was inaugurated as Nigeria's vice president. He was handling Niger Delta issues until the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs was created in September 2008, allowing him to distance himself from being viewed as someone who could only work on that issue. Jonathan's ascent to the vice presidency was a source of pride for many Ijaws, and he had the support of prominent, although marginalized Ijaw elders such as Edwin Clark. However, his appointment as Yar'Adua's running mate earned him political enemies. Attacks on Jonathan's campaign offices, government house, and family home have not been linked definitively to individuals or groups. They reflect deep fissures in his South-South support base. President Yar'Adua, elected in 2007 and eligible to run for a second term in 2011, departed from Nigeria on 23 November 2009 to undergo medical treatment in Saudi Arabia. Vice President Goodluck Jonathan cautiously assumed some presidential duties in the meantime, avoiding the appearance of seeking the presidency prematurely. Divisions between northern and southern politicians and competition among potential successors for the vice presidency complicated decision-making. Political pressure from multiple quarters, including parts of the ruling party, built on the Yar'Adua loyalists in the government to transfer formal presidential powers to the Vice President, Goodluck Jonathan. On 9 February 2010, the Senate and the House of Representatives approved resolutions designating Vice President Jonathan as acting president and commander-in-chief. According to the resolutions, Jonathan would retain this position until ailing President Yar'Adua, whose absence reached 78 days on that date, returned to Nigeria and communicated in writing that he was capable of resuming presidential powers. At that time, there were some expectations that a northerner, possibly the person designated as a new vice president, will run for president in 2011 and govern for the next 4 years to maintain the zonal rotation between the northern and southern politicians, 7-8 years each as president. But in April 2011, President Goodluck Jonathan of the ruling People's Democratic Party, who had assumed the presidency in May 2008 following his predecessor's death, won election to a 4-year term, along with the Vice President Mohamed Namadi Sambo, also of the PDP. International and domestic election observers consider the April 2011 presidential, gubernatorial and legislative elections to be generally credible, orderly, and a substantial improvement from the flawed 2007 elections since his return to multi-party democracy in 1999. However, there were reports of frauds and irregularities, including vote rigging and buying, underage voting, ballot stuffing and political violence, which led to post-election violence in protest of Jonathan's victory. Jonathan captured 59% of the national vote, beating his main rival of the Congress for Progressive Change, who won 32%. Jonathan was sworn in on May 29, 2011. Jonathan's inner circle was primarily composed of Bayelsa State indigents, some with prior government experience, others active in civil society. Often referred to as a humble politician, Jonathan reportedly listened to his advisors, many of whom were friendly towards the United States. Jonathan has engaged U.S. diplomats and the international community on numerous occasions, including during hostage crisis, and to ask for advice or assistance on economic development issues. Despite vigorous campaigning in 2015, Jonathan was unable to overcome concerns about corruption, a faltering economy, and the Boko Haram insurgency in the north. Goodluck Jonathan is said to have a penchant for federal hats, a regular churchgoer, extremely close to the super pastors of Nigerian Pentecostal churches, and is fond of saying he never had shoes as a child because of poverty. Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan is indeed worthy of the name Goodluck.
Personality profile. Now you know.
Officer, take. Officer, give me number. No time. Ma dey match am, they go.
What? You driving the officer of the law? You're under arrest. Let me see your papers. You can go. They're in order. Drive safe, okay?
I don't understand though. No be the same country again. Officer reject bribe. They arrested me yesterday. That yesterday, I go do my papers. See as I pass now. I pass without fear. You too, make you do wetin dey right. For we country to better, it dey for we hand. If you like, do like say you no hear am. To give or to take bribe, na offense.
Una don hear am, abi? You hear am too, abi? You hear am. You hear am well. They themselves, they hear am. Now the voice of the people. Now him bring this message give now. Today 95.1 FM. Now we be the voice of the people.
Seen a guy so fly, I can make you feel so high. There is no need to be shy. See you giving me the eye. I just wanna be your guy. Baby, what is your reply? There is no need to be shy. Let me know. Say let go. Where you let go? Bad man wants to follow you go. Where you let go? I wanna know. Call me Banky double you go. Done day here, 2:15. No need to fear what we gon' do. Relax your mind, it's up to you. I won't be rude, baby, you might be new. Feels so right, the way you move. I'm hypnotized, give me juju. Give me a try, capable. Yes, I am somebody that can treat you right. Never seen a guy this fly. I can make you feel so high. There is no need to be shy. No, you're giving me the eye. I just wanna be your guy. Baby, what is your reply? There is no need to be shy. Yes, I see it go. Where you let go? Bad man wants to follow you go. Where you
Today 95.1 FM. To copy this tune, press 9.
This is Today 95.1 FM.
For current news and information, press 5.
They are politicians, all of them. They know what they do.
So they know how they attack each other.
To stay connected all day, press 1.
The person who raised the alarm is the one who made the public know about
Good afternoon and welcome to the World News on your premium talk radio station.
We are your premium talk radio station. Today 95.1 FM. The station with a unique dial.
What's up, Izzy? This takes money.
Money slow to enter, money quick to go. Money slow to enter, where money they go, I don't know.
Yo, I didn't grow poor, but I didn't grow rich. Wasn't cruising through life, but we buried in a ditch. I would look at some of my friends and get that itch to scratch that cash, to look that flash. Grew with a complex, no self-esteem. Pops beached back when that didn't make cream. Mama stayed home till the boys got grown. We reminisce sometimes on the phone, how sometimes at Christmas wasn't no wish list, wasn't no chickens, there wasn't no rice. We didn't have money for fees, it was a funny couple G's, but still we couldn't pay that price. Still I had it easy and life was good. I trade story with some of my mans from the hood. Drama every day, trauma where they lay. Mama used to say
money slow to enter, money quick to go. Money slow to enter, where money they go, I don't know.
Life is out, you struck that hotel. You wanna get laid and you can't afford to fail. Cause if you don't hit it, life will seem like jail. And death is the cost if you wanna make bail. The rich get richer, the poor get screwed. Living it's like oil and get screwed. So we shall inherit the merit and get chewed. Try as it may, life will not get you. Money is the key if you want life to chill. Money is the juice you produce from the skills. But money when abused, it's slaughter and kill. So listen up, people, this is real. See, money can rape you, she's so unfaithful. Don't love her too much because she will forsake you. Some give her everything and shower praise. But what a bitch, money never
money
stays.
slow to enter, money quick to go. Money slow to enter, where money they go, I don't know.
I remember that my father used to say, pray for better days, and God to direct your feet with cheddar lay. Like cheddar may release the stress on my vertebrae, cause all I could do was drain and get away. Fast forward a few years, a few springs, summertimes, autumn and New Year's. Now I'm in the US fighting a few fears. Grades poor, never first place like juniors. And my brother would write to me, letters and emails, telling me about school and home and females, telling me about this lovely girl he's met. He's sure he loves her though he hasn't kissed her yet. MPS, things the same, bro. I need that new PS or a new Nintendo. Then I would get awfully calm, hold a pen in my palm. Like what could I write to make it
money
understand?
slow to enter, money quick to go. Money slow to enter, where money they go, I don't know.
Every day on Today 95.1 FM, there's always an opportunity to comment and air your views on our various programs. It's not just about us. It's about you, your opinion, and your voice.
President, don't you think that it's time to step down, sir?
Be part of the story, the gist, reactions, intrigues, and the news.
President Neil Patrick Harris has called for greater regulation.
Give us a feedback or join the conversation on Twitter at TodayFM951. Our Facebook address is Today95.1fm, or join us on the number 0701-933-9962. That's our WhatsApp application. Be informed, be educated, and have fun. We are Today 95.1 FM, voice of the people.
Also saying don't worry. This government.
For that station, George.
Don't worry you.
We're passionate about it.
We love talking.
We are
your number one talk radio station. 95.1 FM.
Today 95.1 FM. Good
morning. My name is Ifeanyi. I'm calling you from. Hello?
Yes, Today 95.1 FM. Good morning.
My name is Julia. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
All right, William from Port Harcourt. Go ahead.
Talk radio.
You have a right to say no, right? All right.
I'm calling from Unipua.
Okay, thank you so much from Unipua.
We are the station that needs no introduction. Of course, you know, we give the best in news, sports.
You like football, right?
Entertainment, politics. In fact, call it talk.
Yes, we know there's a lot you want to hear, and that is why we talk about everything.
Talk radio.
We're right before you. It's just a dial away. This is your number one premium talk radio. Today, 95.1 FM, voice of the people.
Officer, take. Officer, give me number. No time. Ma dey match am, they go.
What? You driving the officer of the law? You're under arrest. Let me see your papers. You can go. They're in order. Drive safe, okay?
I don't understand though. No be the same country again. Officer reject bribe. They arrest me yesterday. That yesterday, I go do my papers. See as I pass now. I pass without fear. You too, make you do wetin dey right. For we country to better, it is for we hand. If you like, do like say you know hear am. To give or to take bribe, na offense.
Una don hear am, abi? You hear am too, abi? You hear am. You hear am well. They themselves, they hear am. Now the voice of the people. Now him bring this message give una. Today 95.1 FM. Now we be the voice of the people.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay, 'cause I've had nothing to live for, and look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change. Everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Yes, sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. Listen, 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of a bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm sitting on the dock of a bay, wasting time.
After enough work, and my boy, yeah, can't share it. Kicking, kick a pimp, kick a drink, kick a fin, shamo, push it low. Ori you one low. I want share it, need to see the way the girls at the mini wanna. See the way the boys then they scatter my dance floor. Oh, more pushing free, yeah, Emi o mari ruwe le you. Fojú di mi wọ́n ló lára oró. Sama rock you from head to toe. Má jẹ́ kó pariwo ó tó oró mi o. See the way the girls and the mini wanna. See the way the boys and they scatter my dance floor. Ọmọ bó ṣe fìdí ẹjọ́. Èmi ò má rírú eléyìí rí o.
Everything becomes unsteady. The only way to go is tune to Today 95.1 FM and the world of information, entertainment, and education will be served as breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Welcome to the show. You're listening to today's Quest. The newspaper review segment is what we've
got.
Now
who says I can't bring the party to your house right now? Because, even if it's raining, I still bring the heat right here.
I am here for you, and I know you are here for me.
It is surely the best 15 minutes of football you can find anywhere on radio.
Back here in the garden city of Port Harcourt. Today, 95.1 FM. Nothing but the best. Nothing but the best.
I am a proud Nigerian. I have been placed here by God for a time such as this.
Pack my bags, I ain't coming back.
The degradation, challenges, and problems faced by Nigeria are the perfect backdrop for me to develop and utilize my God-given potential.
I will not complain. I will not criticize. Rather, I will use my skills, gifts, relationships,
and experience to find long-lasting and revolutionary solutions to the many challenges confronting Nigeria.
Nigeria will rise again.
Because I am here, I will leave this nation
a better place than I met it. I will work.
Because he lives, I can face tomorrow.
evening, my beloved listeners. I, God's servant, Apostle Innocent Onyogazere Henry, welcome you to another edition of the Burden Bearers Have Our program. I wish everyone listening to me a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. And I want to say that the God who has brought us thus far is able and capable to take us to the end of the year. This night, just a few days to Christmas, I want to speak to us on the topic thankfulness. Thankfulness or gratefulness. I'd like to read for us two scriptures. The first is Psalm number 100, verse 4. Psalm number 100, verse 4. And it says, enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him and bless his name. The second scripture is Colossians chapter 3, verse 15. And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to the which also you are called in one body, and be ye thankful. From both scriptures, we see that thankfulness or being thankful is a command. A command given to us by God himself. Man is commanded, instructed to give thanks or to be thankful. When I consulted with the dictionary tells me that thankfulness is warm, friendly feelings. Warm, friendly feelings of gratitude. And then the word gratitude is a feeling of thankfulness and appreciation. So whether we use the word thankful or grateful, we are simply saying we are excited in our hearts, because the issue of gratefulness or thankfulness has to do with the mind. There are people that you give them a broomstick, for the next 6 months, they are thanking you every day and everywhere you see them, just for giving them a broomstick. There are some others, you build a house, equip it, and give to them. They will just receive it for them. They feel it's a right, so there's nothing really to thank you for. You should take it, they have tried, and it should just go that way. There are people, we all are different. For some people, they are very easy to please. Very little thing. You have tuned them off positively, and they will be all over you, appreciating you, and even telling others of what you did for them. Whereas some other people, even if you like, cut off your head and give them in a saucer, they will not be appreciative. They will ask you, what of the blood that came out when you cut the head? Why didn't you gather it and bring to them? That is why thankfulness is an attitude. It is an attitude, and a very serious attitude. On the other hand, ingratitude or unthankfulness is equally an attitude. Those who appreciate things done by men to them do not have difficulty in appreciating God. I repeat what I said. Those who find it easy to say thank you to men and appreciate them for whatever favors they receive from me. Such people don't find it difficult appreciating God for what He has done in their lives. And those who feel it is their right to receive all the good things on earth, and if it doesn't work that way, they will hardly express appreciation. The same way they walk towards me, the same way they maltreat fellow human beings in not giving thanks, that's the same approach they have towards God. Do you know that thankfulness is inbuilt in man? Right from the time we are babies, we are able to express thankfulness by smiling back at our mother after sucking the breasts, after receiving one favor or the other. The child expresses thankfulness through smiles. And as the child grows up, even without going through a formal school, the child is able to say thank you, depending on the language the child is taught. So thankfulness is imbued in human beings. Right from our childhood, we'll always say thank you to people who did good to us. Unfortunately, as you and I grow up, something strange begins to happen to some of us. And what is that strange thing? We begin to lose this great attribute. We begin to form our own ways and do our own things. Our hearts get hardened towards God and fellow men. And several things begin to come up in our lives at that moment. Beloved listeners, you and I are close to the end of year 2022. There's nothing we can do to change the closeness, and we give God glory. When we look at our lives this year, life has treated you and me at various levels. For some people, it is full of praise, hallelujah, because all their expectations were met. We give God all the glory for their lives. For some other people, it didn't really work that way. They are neither here nor there. They can't really tell you that God did it or did not do it. They just look at life and say, okay, oh, thank God I am alive. That's another one. And then the third group is those who are actually bitter in their hearts towards God and men. There's bitter complaints. This person did this to me, the other one did that to me, this one did not work. So many things. They see nothing good in the passing year. And equally, do not see anything good about the God who created the year. They consider the year 2022 as a failure by all standards, and they are imagining why such a year should have been created, because it's not worth it. But may I say this? Some of us wouldn't like this statement I will make, but it must be made. God is grieved. I repeat, God, our God, He is grieved with our attitude of ingratitude. You may say, how do you know? I'll take you straight to the Bible, and the Bible will speak for itself. I take you to the gospel according to St. Luke chapter 17. Luke chapter 17. I read from verse 13. And they lifted up their voices and said, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. And when Jesus saw them, he said unto them, Go, show yourselves unto the priests. And it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, and with a loud voice glorified God, and fell down on his face at his feet, giving him thanks. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus answering said, Were there not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? There are not found that return to give glory to God, save this stranger. And he said unto him, Arise, go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole. In this scripture we read, Jesus came in contact with 10 miserable lepers that have been ostracized by the society. They were helpless, they were hopeless. History reserved no place for them. They were destined for the worst. But then Jesus came their way, and unanimously all of them joined together, and they were shouting one thing. They were crying one cry. And what was it? Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. Jesus stopped and spoke into their lives. He prophesied into their lives and said to them, You are healed. As you go, make sure you go to the priests to certify you whole as a leper. And they left. But on the way, miraculously, all of them discovered that their skins have changed. The reproach of leprosy have been lifted from their lives. They were wearing the skins of newborn babies. Their excitement knew no bounds. All the deformities associated with leprosy was gone. Wow. And they started jumping, running, shouting. But out of the 10, it was one man, a Samaritan, a Gentile, that decided to return to Jesus. The other 9 people went to organize parties in their homes, in their various churches, to organize Thanksgiving the next Sunday. But they didn't care to come back and give the situation report to Jesus, except one man. For that one man that came, what did Jesus say to him? In verse 17, the Bible clearly said, Were there not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? That expresses God's disappointment at our ingratitude. He said, Where are the 9? I made whole 10 people, but 9 have decided to hurt me with their ingratitude. Do you know that each time you and I displays ingratitude, we are hurting God with dagger, hot dagger. We are telling God, God, you don't deserve our thanks nor our praise. We are saying to God, I beg, Whatever you feel you did, we could as well do it, or we could buy it with our money. That is the height of insult to the Most High God. And we all do it almost every day of our lives, and especially at this time of the year. Let us break at this point for an interlude of music.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive a King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ. For fields and floods, box hills and plains, repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy.
From all of us at the Burden Bearer Ministry,
And we would like to wish everyone
Merry, Merry Christmas.
You are welcome back. The voice speaking to you is that of Apostle Innocent Unyogaziri Henry, the vision coordinator of the Burden Bearers Ministries Incorporated. And our ministry, Burden Bearers, is a non-denominational ministry, an outreach ministry, a deliverance-based ministry, a word-based ministry that God has raised at this time to teach our generation the truth and bring deliverance to those who are bound by Satan in one way or the other. We are located at number 6 BBM Close of kilometer 1.5 Iweche Road through Eleme Junction in Port Harcourt. We have a satellite branch located at number 8 Humphrey Close at Femia Estate of Abuloma Road, Port Harcourt. And we have a branch at Obama Cove, or rather Cove, Obama, precisely at Bethel Worldwide Educational Schools. And then finally we have a branch at number 26 Osiri Street, Ekeki, in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. You can get in touch with us in any of these offices, of these our branches, and God is doing great things and will surely touch your life in a special way as you get in touch with the ministry. I'd like to give you the following information for the week we are entering. The first information is that we in the Burden Bearers Ministries Incorporated, we are deeply grateful to you, our listener. Your listenership has made our stay on air useful and reasonable. We appreciate you so much. We equally appreciate our members who pay the bills for all the expenses incurred in the course of bringing this message to the general public through the year in question. We equally thank the owners, managers, and staff of Media Corp Limited, the owners and operators of Today95.1 FM. We are glad doing business with you, and we wish you all a Merry Christmas and a glorious New Year in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. This Monday, we shall have our last 60 minutes with Jesus in the house, headquarters. The time is 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And on Wednesday this week, precisely 21st of December, the burden bearers' offices will close for the year. Again, from 25th of this month, we have 7 days of fasting and prayers to round up the year and to set the agenda for the coming year arise. Finally, we have prophetic end of year crossover night. This is going to be at 9 p.m. at the Burden Bearers Ministries Incorporated. On that day, all roads lead to Burden Bearers Ministries. The theme is See What God Has Done. See what God has done. We invite you to come and prepare yourself to testify of the numerous benefits of God to your life and your family. Now let's go back to the message. If you are just tuning in, our message tonight is titled Thankfulness or Gratefulness. Yes, we are looking at the gospel according to St. Luke chapter 17, 13 to 18. And we're x-raying the comments of Jesus over the single ex-leper that came to give thanks. We saw how sweet it was for Jesus that at least 1 out of 10 came. And we heard his comment, very bitter comment about those who received the miracles, the healing, the deliverances, the favor, the provisions, open doors, but they cared not to return back. Someone may say, what a bad attitude. But may I tell you that you and I do the same on a daily basis. As I speak this night, many of us are down in the valley of complaining. Complain about this, complain about that. Murmur about this, murmur about that. As if we are suing God to court. Let a judge between us and God. Why God was so wicked, why God allowed your wife or your husband to die, why your business closed down, why your job was lost, and many things. We're in the valley of complaining, murmuring, and abuses unto God and fellow human beings. Are you saying, wow, can somebody abuse God? Sure, as I speak, many are abusing God. They have the audacity to call God names and insult him because of one thing or the other. My dear, for sure, I'd like to say to you, with this attitude, you cannot go far. You can't go far. The truth is that you cannot fight God. Do what you feel you can do. You cannot fight God. God hates complaining, murmuring, and ingratitude. One major way, and I say it clearly, one major way to unlock the blessings of God upon your life is through thankfulness. Even the remaining days of this year, you can prove what I have said right by spending the remaining days thanking God and appreciating him, and you will see what blessings God will bring your way. God Almighty warned the children of Israel in this scripture, Deuteronomy 28, verse 47 and 48. Listen to what the word of God says and what ingratitude can bring to the sons of men, including you and me. Deuteronomy 28 verse 47. Because you did not serve the Lord your God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shall you serve your enemies, which the Lord shall send against you in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And God shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck until you have been destroyed. That's it. If God has done you good and you feel, because the other one didn't happen and that didn't happen, and because of that, you decide to insult the person of God, either by your word or by your action, then you have landed yourself into trouble. Even the blessings meant for you are being turned into a curse, and it can be terrible. As I begin to wind up, let me read Psalm number 50 verse 23. Psalm number 50 verse 23. Whoso offereth praise glorifieth me, and to him that ordereth his conversation aright will I show the salvation of God. God clearly stated that anyone that offers praise, that person is making him happy. That person is glorifying him. And let's look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 13. 2 Thessalonians 2:13. But we are bound to give thanks always to God. We are under obligation. There is an obligation upon us to give thanks unto God. In other words, it is incumbent on us to give thanks unto God, notwithstanding our situation. That is to say, it is mandatory, compulsory, that mortals like you and I, that God has given life, should be able to appreciate God. There are people like you that are lying lifeless in mortuaries. If you doubt, enter into any hospital with mortuary. Only 5 minutes, you'll be convinced. And go around the whole Port Harcourt, go around the whole River State, and take census of the corpses there, and you will know how much love God has for you. May I say to us that as we conclude, as we look forward to the Christmas next week, the God of heaven, the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, is able to make all things abound to us. That what things you don't have today, for which you are breaking your head, God can bring it your way. And I command that you receive God's unlimited visitation as you lay aside your complaints and eulogize the name of the God who made the heavens and the earth. Once again, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. As we conclude, take again our telephone contacts. 0803 33 88 933. That is 080 333 88 933 and 0803 741 6604. That is 0803 741 6604. Till we come your way next week, it is I, God's servant, Apostle Innocent Onyogaziri Henry. Remain ever blessed. Amen and amen.
From all of us at the Burden Bearer Ministry.
And we would like to wish everyone
Merry, Merry Christmas.
This is Today 95.1 FM. To copy this tune, press 9.
This is Today 95.1 FM.
For current news and information, press 5.
They are politicians, all of them. They know what they do.
So they know how they attack each other.
And
To stay connected all day, press 1.
The person who raised the alarm is the one who made the public know about
Oh, good afternoon and welcome to the World News on your Premium Talk Radio station.
We are your premium talk radio station. Today 95.1 FM. The station with a unique dial.
Okay, alright. All you need to know about this one is that
95.1 FM. Search for unique dial.
You're about to listen to
Get ready! It's the world of broadcasting as Today 95.1 FM brings you entertainment, information, education as they unfold every day.
Today 95.1 FM.
Do you know that I'm necessarily mentioned? When I talk about market, do you think I used to climb from 3 alone in this video?
So, yeah, you see, you've not benefited anything from Nigeria.
Talk radio. I listen to a lot of talk radio.
95.1 FM.
Hardball.
See, you know one good thing.
There are over 150 million people in Nigeria, and that makes 150 million and more arguments. Some agreeing and others opposing on Hardball every Saturday
between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m.
We bring the strongest opposing arguments into our studios and we take the gloves off. Don't want to miss the debate on Today 95.1 FM, 95.1 FM of the people.
It is another good day for Hardball this week. Therefore, welcome to it. Hardball this week is going to be focused on something that is very much trending. I think it's been in existence though, but then I think the political lexicon of Nigeria has blossomed with it more than ever. Direct and indirect primaries. Therefore, the theme is direct or indirect primaries, which is more democratic? Quite fantastic. We shall be knowing exactly which is more democratic today. We already have two analysts seated in the studio, in fact, ready to explode. That's intellectually. They are not forcing themselves to fight. But they will explode intellectually, and we have got from their comments know exactly which one is more democratic. But you can't know them now. We want to back on a short break, and when we come back from that break, you will know them. Once again, welcome to Hardball this week.
Hardball.
See, you know one good thing.
There are over 150 million people in Nigeria, and that makes 150 million and more arguments. Some agreeing and others opposing on Hardball every Saturday
between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m.
We bring the strongest opposing arguments into our studios and we take the gloves off. Don't want to miss the debate on Today 95.1 FM, 95.1 FM of the people.
Welcome to Hardball. The two analysts we have in the studio who will be talking on this particular theme, direct or indirect primaries, which is more democratic, are Lord Asher Frank, monarch, publisher, and leader, the Bridge Organization Global. Lord Asher Frank, you're warmly welcome to Hardball this week.
Good evening, everybody. I'm grateful to be here once more. I'm pleased.
Lord Asher Frank will be saying that indirect primaries is indeed more democratic. Do you believe in that? Don't you believe in it? Well, take your position, but allow him say what he wants to say so that we can learn from him. On the other hand, we have Honorable Jerem Chukwemeka Okere, Esquire. He is a legal practitioner based in Port Harcourt. Honorable Okere, you're warmly welcome to Hardball this week.
Thank you, Chief Emmanuel Ndukwe. Thank you, our great listeners.
Honorable Okere will be saying, no, direct primary is more democratic. Do you want to stand in his way? You don't have such right to do because he will push out his facts for us to judge. And as he is pushing out the facts, articulate them and know whether it is more democratic or indirect. But on your own position, do you think that indirect or direct, which one of them is more democratic? We want to forge ahead by inviting Lord Asher Frank to the podium by asking him, Lord Asher Frank, do you think that indirect, as you said, is more democratic? Our listeners are very much agog. They want to learn from you. Could you roll off?
Thank you very much. The first question is, what is indirect primaries? Indirect primaries is a system of election within the political organization where delegates vote for their respective candidates for their respective contestable positions. These delegates that are so elected, these delegates that are to so vote, are themselves elected by Congress. And Congress is all card-carrying members of the party. I stand to say that this is the most democratic form of choosing candidates within the political organization. Why I say so is because government is all about representation. Government is all about the majority of the people delegating their mandate to a few to exercise on their behalf. And that is why it is incumbent on the few to whom such delegated powers have been accorded to always be in touch and to always serve the interests of the generality of the people who delegated their mandate to them. So, if Congress elects democratically their delegates and thus cede their mandate to them, so they can go and exercise a kind of franchise on their behalf, and those so democratically elected candidates by Congress go exercise that function to whom of which the Congress have accorded them such responsibility to do. As far as I'm concerned, that should be the best form of democracy in choosing candidates within a democratic organization. You see, there are fundamentals which I must accept that makes indirect primaries very democratic, if not the most democratic. Those fundamentals is that Congress must freely, fairly, and credibly elect those delegates. Otherwise, those delegates cease to become delegates in the real sense of the word. If Congress does not freely, fairly, and credibly elect those delegates, those such delegates now becomes hyphenated, and they so lack the mandate which they would have thus arrogated to themselves, because they don't now have it, because they were not then fairly and freely given. So, if a well-consulted Congress, which is card-carrying members, active members of a political organization, freely, fairly, and credibly elect their delegates, those delegates represent their mandate, they carry their mandate, and they can elect, and it becomes very democratic. And to understand this better is to understand one of the greatest innovations of indirect primaries that we know in Nigeria, which was then crafted by Professor Humphrey Nwosu as option A4. Option A4 was Congress. It was an elimination process. You want to run for a position, you go to your ward. A well-constituted Congress in your ward, you go and meet them and say you want to run an election. That Congress will give you a mandate to say this ward supports you to go and run that election. And then in that Congress, they will elect delegates that will again reaffirm you at the next level, which is local government Congress. At the local government Congress, the elected delegates from the ward Congress will, so having so affirmed you, will also again elect delegates for the next level, depending on the nature of election position you are contesting for. Those delegates will again go to the state level and on to the national level. So, if the people must cede their mandate to a few to exercise on their behalf, then indirect primaries to me is the best form of democratic form of choice of candidates.
Well, I'm pleased to be here. For me, there are basically three concepts that have been discussed today. One is democracy. And for anybody to appreciate this or give it a balanced assessment, you must understand properly what democracy is all about. Democracy is a form of government that talks purely on majority rule. One of the foremost scholars, Abraham Lincoln, saw democracy as a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The implication of this definition is that the person running this election or contesting this election must first and foremost come from the people. He must be elected by the people, and he should be able to govern for the people. At the early stage of democracy, when it began in Greek city-states, we had purely what was called direct democracy. Until direct democracy started becoming a little bit clumsy, because at a point in time, all manner of persons cannot gather in a place. The implication of direct primaries is that all who are involved, all who are supposedly to form that government, are supposed to participate. Now, government started shifting to what could be called electoral college, which is the so-called indirect position today. Now, democracy as old as it is has metamorphosed. It has grown. We have several branches of democracy. We have liberal democracy and we have all kinds of democracy. But the cardinal element and understanding which anybody must be able to see as a component of democracy is that it deals with majority rule. That at any time government is being formed, the majority of the people must be seen to be speaking for that government, for the formation of that government. Anything devoid of that is not democracy. The subject matter today is whether or not direct primary is more democratic or indirect primary is more democratic. Not that both of them are not democratic. Whether direct primary or indirect primary, both are democratic. That is why the subject matter is very interesting, because my opponent had already come to agree with me that indirect primary is not democratic. When you say that the indirect primary are delegates who have been elected, and a lot of presumptions are being laid, that there's a presumption that those who are elected, there will be a free, fair, and credible election to elect those people. Even that, be that as it may, even if it is correct as it is, assuming without conceding that is correct, there's a principle in law that is called delegatus non potest delegare. The delegate cannot delegate. Those people who are properly elected according to him, and that has never existed in anywhere. Look at what we are seeing in River State, where in the midnight some people constitute themselves and then nominate persons and call them delegates. Now, even if they are so properly elected to re-elect those who contest the election, at the point they are doing that voting, at the point they have made up their mind, assuming take APC and PDP for example, you have in APC 27 ward ESCOs. there is a presumption that these world executives were elected by the world at the world congresses, which we never witnessed. Now, if they are elected to elect the local government those who will constitute the local government executives, and the local government executive now electing the state and national, at the point of this election, what is the feedback mechanism? Did they go back to say the opinion they are expressing now is their opinion? Their choice is now what they think is right. We just witnessed the election of Atiku as the candidate of PDP. Those people who came to Port Harcourt to elect Atiku, did they consult those who elected them at the various wards? At that point, what is democracy? You are now limiting your choice on your opinion of that person. It is no longer a majority rule, because the presumption that the entire members of PDP voted Atiku. Is that correct? That's absolutely a nullity. Now, for us at the APC, you witness that President General Muhammad Buhari himself, in attempt to even democratize, in attempt to see that his election is more democratic, chose to go direct. He said, I want to direct primaries. Let the people speak from the wards. And all card-carrying members of the party went to the various wards, met, organized election at the ward level. If you're a member of APC, come to the ward and vote for me. I want to know how effective, I want to know how actively those who support me vote me directly. And we came. That was why I have said, here in Rivers State, a brand of direct election primaries were conducted, and that is appropriate. I am not saying that indirect primaries are also not democratic. They are democratic to a great extent, but it is limited, it is qualified. A more democratic process is a direct primary. The direct primaries allow every card-carrying member of the party to participate and vote for the candidate of their choice. Assuming without conceding, we have 1 million members of APC. Now, the entire delegates through an indirect primary that will elect those are less than 300 or 4. But if it is direct, over 200,000 to 300,000 persons will vote. Which one is more democratic?
Thank you very much. You see, let us try to separate something here. Let us separate fraud from a process. There's a difference between fraud and a process that is legitimate. The instance you gave of APC Rivers State indirect primaries, as far as I'm concerned, is fraud of its highest type. There was no well-constituted Congress anywhere that elected officials of the party at any level that constituted themselves delegates. No. So to that extent, the epithet indirect primaries does not apply at all. That was a fraud. It was a system of selection and appointment. Nobody voted anybody to go and represent anybody anywhere. No. If people gathered anywhere, I want somebody to show me that wherever they gathered, there was any voting of any type that was done. It was not. We are looking at a process that is not a fraud in its own credit, in its own merit. And we are looking at indirect primaries as a system of political organizations choosing their candidates for election. Within the context of that process, delegates can only emerge when well-constituted congresses elected them. Who are the well-constituted congresses? Is the entirety of the members of the party that are active. I'm even surprised these days that somebody can just have a membership card and go into oblivion, only to appear one day. He will not only talk more than everybody in the party, he will even get ticket. What we know about party politics is that you must be an active member. Active members participate in political activities. Active members, where they don't participate, contribute resources into the running of political activities. These active members constitute Congress, which is the highest policy-making organ of the party at the world level. It is this Congress, which is the party members who decide for the party at that level, that can now say through a democratic process, A, B, C, D, we cede our mandate to you to represent us to go electing candidates. Because representation and representative politicking is the hallmark of democracy. That process, when observed not in the breach, which is a fraud, is to me the best democratic process. Because even that Congress, as well constituted as it is, will be very difficult at all times to have all active members present on any one given day. There must be a reason why some people will not be there. But the democratic process have also made room for everybody not to be there, for decisions to be taken. And how do they make those rooms? They have made rooms for quotarization that empanels and empowers such constituted Congress to go ahead even if some people are not there. When this has happened, when this have taken place, democracy is said to be in process. And then the persons so elected, because never in history will everybody at any time be in governance, not to even talk of being in at the point of making decisions and choosing everybody that will be in governance. When such delegates have been so elected, such delegates are now the persons to go and decide in an electoral college who becomes a party candidate at any one point in time. Of course, if you have found me worthy as an active party member to delegate your mandate to me, it is now assumed that whatever decision I'm taking on your behalf. It's a responsibility, it's a two-way affair. So whatever decision I'm taking on your behalf. Because why I consider this the best form of government is that it creates room for better mass participation. Because everybody can never at any point be able to participate in the process at all points. So at some points, even in governance itself, certain persons must be in certain places to take decisions on behalf of others. So if you are starting it from the process of bringing out candidates and going into elections, then you are deepening democracy, which we are going to deal with even when they have won elections.
Well, I will not change or begin to redefine what democracy is all about. The concept of democracy, like I said earlier, simply means majority rule. So at any point in time you are involved in any act that is democracy or democratization of a process, you must endeavor, you must take steps to ensure that that act involves a greater number of persons. And now we are saying between direct and indirect, which one is the more democratic? Now, what this question simply means, which of them involves more persons? Where do people participate more? I do not want to involve myself or engage myself with the numerous frauds that midwifed the so-called congresses that were held in River State. The congresses that never saw any election anyway, a midnight crew that was midwifed by some persons and they now become. And such group of persons are now claiming, even when court has said they are no longer effective, they are also in the burden of expressing that they are. That is not my business for today. My business for today is that a direct primary is more democratic because it involves more people, because it involves more participation. Democracy is the participation of people in an organization, the participation of people in government, and now the greater number of persons involved. The indirect system of government or the electoral college, which is a brand of democracy, evolved to lack confidence. It was not because it is more democratic. It was not because it is a better way of expression of democracy. It is a way of achieving confidence, a way of ensuring that clumsiness is reduced. But in as much as we are talking of democracy, in as much as we are thinking of how to ensure that democracy is expressed, the proper form of that democracy is direct democracy. Direct democracy because the people who are electing you directly. Everybody is involved. Now, assuming the statement that there were proper congresses held. Let me start from the world. There were proper congresses at the world level, and the congresses had elected delegates to elect people at the local government. There were also free and fair congresses at the local government level, which now midwifed into electing those state congresses and presumably the national. When these delegates are elected, their thinking, their opinion, their status is devoid, is different, is in absolute dissonance with the opinion of those who elected them. Now, I come from a ward called Ward 10 in Obite, a Chie local government area of River State, where we have close to 1,000 members of APC. At the day of Congress, all of us gather, assuming it is a proper Congress, a Congress organized properly. We gather at Obite and we elect those who will constitute the executives of the party. Just 27 members. 1,000 persons elect them. Assuming we are 500 persons, we have elected 27 persons. These 27 persons, now you are now saying the opinion of these 27 persons will be the best, will be more democratic than the opinion of 1,000 persons. Because at the time we are choosing a governorship candidate, a House of Rep aspirant, a candidate, a House of Assembly candidate, only 27 persons from Obite will now go. At that point, they choose whom they like. They are no longer expressing the opinion of Obite people. They are expressing the opinion of 27 persons, however representative they are. That opinion cannot in themselves manifest into the opinion of the 1,000 or 500 persons that came out to vote. I contested for House of Representatives and I went to Obite and I said, look, I want direct primaries. Because when the people elect you, it becomes easier for you to also win the election, because anybody that has come and win election through direct primaries will make it easier for members of that party to accept him, because it is more democratic, because it is more people oriented, because it is masses oriented, it is grassroots oriented. Indirect or electoral college is a system evolved in Greek city states at a time where it became very clumsy, at a time where it became a little bit difficult to gather everybody in a place and say, look, whom do you want? But now development has evolved. There is now a systematic approach of doing things. There is delimitation of constituencies up to the level of wards. People are now going to the various wards to participate, and now you need to vote. As big as Lagos, we have seen where primaries were conducted and a candidate scored 900 and something thousand votes. Can you just oppose that with a miniature group that would have been a delegate that may not be up to 500? And now you begin to tell me because there were congresses that were properly conducted, their opinion is now more democratic than the opinion of 900 and something persons. Or in River State here, where distinguished Senator Manuel Sengayabe won with over 140 something thousand votes, you begin to compare that with less than 400 votes that somebody said he has been elected during the primaries.
Thank you very much. Democracy is an innovation of the Greeks. The Greeks who innovated democracy began it with direct primaries. Everybody gathered in a square and raised their hands up. It was a nay and yea kind of thing. And at that point, the population of the Greek city-states were understandably low. As population grew, and as the management of the process of popular participation in government becomes sophisticated, the Greek philosophers came out to say, what we are doing is crude, and we need to modify it. And they suggested that the best form of democracy should be representative democracy. Of course, you got somebody elected as your president at the end of the day. Are we all going to be president at the same time so that it will be democratic? And the person's decision that is taken at that point, is it not binding on all of us who voted him there? The same applies to your governor, your local government chairman, your legislators. Is it all of us that go to the Senate, and House of Reps, and House Assembly? You eventually send somebody there. You see, if you must believe in participation, mass participation as a form of government, you must also juxtapositionally accept the principles of ceding of mandate to a few persons to take decisions on your behalf. These are consistent democratic norms. So, in as much as direct primaries is good, direct primaries has become the foundation upon which indirect process is built. You can never have delegates without direct primaries. Before you can be able to have delegates, you must have direct elective process. That same process that will now make my friend here a member of the House of Reps will not take everybody in his constituency to the same House of Reps. Now it's only him that will go there and speak on behalf of everybody, supposedly. The decision you are going to take there might be in your own personal interest, mostly. But because people have elected you and put you there, democratically, the only thing they can do is either to recall you or to vote you out in the next election. Because somebody must represent. That is the basis of democracy. It's representative. However you do it, mandates must be ceded at some point to somebody who will custody your mandate as a mass. There's no two ways about it. So, if you have been able to organize yourself and you have been able to have good, credible congresses that bring about delegates that everybody says go and represent our interests, the same way that everybody also, even if they elected those delegates directly, those candidates directly, would have also elected them to go and represent them in government, and they will also go as one individuals carrying their mandate. If you have gotten those good congresses and you have gotten the candidates acceptable to everybody, the same way that everybody brought those delegates that voted those candidates is the same way that even if everybody together voted the candidates together, we still support them, because they believe in the credible process. They believe that whatever came out was based on what they participated on the other day that gave rise to these delegates. So I insist that the fact that people abuse processes, people make very decent processes to look very dubious, does not necessarily mean that those processes are wrong. There is, I don't know how at any point in time there will be any form of government in this world that the mass of the people will not put just one person in one seat that carries their mandate. So how does it now become difficult if such mandate is given to delegates? How does it become difficult? I don't understand. So for me, the indirect form of primaries, properly conducted, is the best expression of democratic process for me.
Indirect form of primaries, well conducted, is the best form of democracy. The words of Lord Frank. Of course, you've heard it from him, but when we come back from this particular short break we're embarking on, Honorable Jerem Chukwemeko Okere will continue in articulating his position that despite what all that Lord Frank has said in support of indirect primaries, that direct primaries, it is indeed a representative of democracy more. Because remember, the two concepts stand for democracy. They are democratic practices. That's direct and indirect primaries. However, the focus of this particular hardball is which of these two concepts are more democratic. Join us when we come back.
Hardball.
See, you don't want to go. There are over 150 million people in Nigeria, and that makes 150 million and more arguments. Some agreeing and others opposing on Hardball every Saturday
between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m.
We bring the strongest opposing arguments into our studios, and we take the gloves off. Don't want to miss the debate on Today 95.1 FM, 95.1 FM of the people.
Welcome back to Hardball. Lord Frank, you've said so much about indirect primaries as the best form of democracy or representative government. However, Honorable Jerem Chukwemeko Okere, has been insisting, and I think will continue to insist, that the rep primary is more open, more inclusive, more democratic. Do you believe in that? And if you do, are you thinking of a way to withdraw all your comments and then tell him, I apologize for having made this mistake. Let us go ahead.
I need to basically and principally let my opponent understand the subject matter, because we seem to be misconstruing the entire process. Because when you talk of representative democracy, are we saying that direct primary does not produce a representation or representative democracy? Representative democracy entails a system of government where people are elected to represent them. For example, I am the candidate of All Progressive Congress for a Chioma federal constituency. I have won through a direct primary. Am I not representative? That is not what we are saying. Whether you are elected through an indirect primary or not, when you are sent to National Assembly, House of Assembly, to become a governor or president, at that point you are representing them. But what we are saying is that, given the definition, given the etymology, the root meaning of democracy, which simply in its simplest interpretation means majority rule. And what is majority rule? A system where a greater number of people are involved. An inclusive system. A system that is open. A system that guarantees mass participation. A system that ensures that those who are involved in the process are a majority. That is what democracy represents. If Abraham Lincoln says it means government of the people, it means the people are deeply involved. The people in their greater number are involved. It's a superlative. It's a comparative analysis. Whether this is greater than this or not, both of them are democratic. But which one is more democratic? And there's no way a process that is going to guarantee an electoral college, a process that is going to guarantee a minute set of persons that in their expression of their will, in the expression of what they think is right and appropriate in their thinking, electing a group of persons to represent them is just opposed with that where you are going to the people in an open place in a very direct form to elect them. And now you begin to say that which has limited the people is more democratic. Now the entire essence, the etymology, the philosophy behind democracy is dead. Because when you want to ensure that leadership speaks from what the people want, go and ask everybody involved. It would have been very obsolete or more difficult to contemplate a direct democracy if there is no modernization. Now we have so much seen a process that have divided the country from even chapters to wards. In fact, from units, you come from a unit, you go to your chapter, you go to your ward. So it's a process of election from the ward to local government. So that difficulty when population grew in the Greek states, which prompted philosophers to say, look, let us find a modest way of achieving this, our democracy, by encouraging an indirect system, an electoral college. It's no longer in existence. It's modernized. Now, we have seen participation. We have seen what happened in Lagos. We have seen the election of President Muhammad Buhari. We have seen the election of distinguished Nzamadu as a candidate of APC. My own election as a candidate of APC for a Chioma federal constituency also took place. And then we have witnessed all this. Results were aggregated. You now go to your various wards, you conduct primaries, and results are aggregated. And the people are saying, look, I know him. Most of the people who elected Atiku as the candidate of APC do not know him. When you are talking of, I'm talking of the presumption that the delegates are speaking the minds of those who elected them through direct congresses. Most of the persons from the world, if given the opportunity, will not vote for Atiku. I want to be corrected. But those who came here and stood and said, this is the person we are voting for, is Atiku, may not be the expression of the people. There's a presumption when you raise the issue that if the president is speaking, is he going to speak with every person? He's not speaking the mind of the people. Or if members of the National Assembly are legislating, are their views not the views of the people? Look, there's a presumption that those who sit and legislate on behalf of the people are supposed to embark on feedback mechanism, especially let me give you a practical example. In my local government and like so many other local governments, we advocate for local government autonomy. That has been the position of the people of a chain. And most local government, because it guarantees direct allocation of resources to them, it guarantees control of resources by the people. But those who are representing us, the representative, I have seen where a legislator came and gathered us and said, look, ordinarily speaking, I would have said autonomy of local government. But I cannot say that because the governor will kill me if I say so. Is that a more democratic process?
It is another time we go on a short break, and when we come back from this particular break, Lord Asher Frank will continue in articulating his position to the august listenership that indirect primary is the best form of democracy. Join us when we come back.
Hardball.
See, you know one good thing. There are over 150 million people in Nigeria, and that makes 150 million and more arguments. Some agreeing and others opposing on Hardball every Saturday
between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m.
We bring the strongest opposing arguments into our studios and we take the gloves off. Don't want to miss the debate on Today 95.1 FM, 95.1 FM of the people.
Welcome back to Hardball. Remember the theme. Between direct and indirect primaries, which is more democratic? And Lord Frank believes that indirect primaries is more democratic than direct variant of primaries. However, Jeremy Okwere differs by saying that direct one is more democratic. Who do you pitch your tent to it? However, Jerome has cited instances that of course showcase that direct primaries are more democratic. So also Lord Asher Frank in case of indirect primaries. Lord Asher Frank, we want to listen to you now, whether you still maintain your position that indirect primary is a better representative of democracy or otherwise.
Thank you very much. I would not even say it's a better form of democracy. I would say it's the best form of it. And my reason is very clear. I am first and foremost not a student of the political thought of Abraham Lincoln within the context of his definition of democracy. Of the people, for the people, by the people, and all that people. Who are the people? If the world is run within the context of that amorphous and utopian definition of democracy, I don't think the world would have been this poor. That definition in itself does not define anything. My understanding of democracy is a system of popular governance. That is why you have social democracy, you have liberal democracy, you even have the communists who say theirs is the best form of democracy. So, the arguments we are having today is the arguments that have been solved way back in the 17th century. The Aristotle, the Socrates, and all of them, the eggheads of that period, adepts and masters in their own rights, had serious thoughts on the concept of democracy and mass participation in governance. Yes, it would have been okay for everybody to be involved in everything to give the concept of mass participation in government a better definition. But it's an impossibility. It doesn't work. It was understood way back in the 17th century by the ancient masters that every people must be led, and society grows to the extent of the intellectual capacity and charisma of who led them. So, from then, the concept of participation have been based on willful surrender of mandate by the greater majority of the persons to a few who represents them. And that process of surrender of mandates to a few goes through the whole gamut of governance and governance and government. So, this becomes the very foundation upon which liberal democratic practice is built world over. The concept of mass participation is now placed at the primitive local level. Yes, you go to your wards, everybody gather where you know yourselves, and from among yourselves, whom you know, you are able to bring out the ones you can possibly send for errands because you know them at that level. You know their communities, you know their genealogy, you know their character. So at that level, you are expected to now get your delegates whom you willfully, without coercion of any type, you willfully surrender your mandate to these few persons that you know within the context of civilized behavior and conduct to speak for you on so issues within the processes of government and governance. I don't know if there's any better form of democratic process other than that. So, for me, as long as the process is free, is fair, is credible, I don't know what is wrong with it. I will only have a question against it when there is appointment of candidates, when there is selection of candidates, when there is dubious manipulation of the process, when there is criminal abridgment of the people's choices. Then in that case, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a primaries at all. The word primaries don't apply at all. You just call it appointment and selection process.
When I cited Abraham Lincoln, I did not see that definition as a universal one. But that definition had been very difficult to be contradicted because it's a derivation of what the founders, those who sat back and say this is what democracy is all about. Democracy is not our local language. Democracy is not a child of Africa. It's not a child of 95.1 FM. Democracy was derived in Greece. Within that context, when the philosophers you mentioned, Aristotle, Plato, and most of their students met and said, look, we need to see how we are represented. And the only way we can be represented is that there should be collective will, the collectivization of the will of the people. It is not a surrender. Because there's a dichotomy between democracy and government. Government was set up in order to ensure that there is security, in order to ensure that life is not short, nasty, and brutish, and life is not that done or exhibited by the strongest, the survival of the fittest. That was where the likes of Thomas Hobbes, the likes of John Locke, and other classical philosophers came on board and said, look, let us surrender ourselves. Let the majority of the people surrender themselves to a few that will govern them. Now, within the context of government, there is a brand of government which is called democracy. That brand of government simply defines a system, and that system encapsulates the nature of the existentialism of that government. And that nature, by that definition, by that thinking, by that philosophy, is majority rule. A rule that will be seen in the eyes of everybody that is of the majority. And once that rule is devoid of that rule is despotic, that rule is autocratic, that rule is no longer of the people. Democracy simply means government of the people. Of the people because the people who constitute that government are a majority. Anything devoid of that is no longer democracy. You can bring other branches of government. We have seen communism, we have seen authoritarian system of government, we have seen monarchical system of government, we have seen feudalism. These are all forms and branches of government. But in as much as we are here to discuss the lexicon, democracy, we must be able to differentiate democracy from other forms of government. We must be able to look at that which we think constitutes, that are within the characteristics, that are within the enclave of that system, and that which is within the enclave of that system is a system that allows mass participation, that makes it more democratic. In as much as indirect primaries, in a way, is also democratic. Which one is more democratic? Which one falls within the ambit of democracy? Which one falls within the ambit of majority rule? It is not within my powers, and I did not invent this theory. It's a theory, it's theoretical. How practical it is, because the dichotomy between theory and practice is of another discussion. The likes of Woodrow Wilson has stated that there's a dichotomy between theory and practice. That I agree. But once we are theorizing, once we are beginning to form within the ambit of theory, we must accept hook, line, and sinker, the definition, the boundaries within which the philosophers that founded it has defined it, and that boundary says majority rule, and it is found and built on direct primaries more than indirect.
Thank you very much. Society have grown. Society have grown to the extent way back in the 17th century for the philosophers of the time of yore to appreciating the facts that there's a difference between primitivity and modernity. What makes the Greek philosophers unique is that their philosophies are timeless. They have lived up to today without any contradiction whatsoever. There are, in our communities, there was once upon a time when every decision in the communities, the gong man will go around the town and everybody will gather in the town square to take decisions. Today, they have modernized. You don't have special councils, elders councils, youth councils, chieftaincy councils that push their head together and take decisions on behalf of the people. You have women groups. What makes all this democratic is when all the power centers within that community are consulted. The fundamental basis that makes democracy or that a process of mass participation, the fundamental word, the operational word is consultation in capital letters. Remove consultation, what you have is autocracy, what you have is dictatorship that has nothing to do with democracy. The moment the word consultation is at play, then you can have horse trading, then you have jaw, and that is democracy in action. And the processes of well-constituted congresses that give rise to delegates is a process of consultation, is a process of jaw, is a process of horse trading, where everybody is part and parcel of the process. The moment that happens, how does it not become the best form of democracy? Because even the government you are going to get there from, it's not going to be everybody. It's going to be a few persons exercising the functions and powers on behalf of all. So that thing you are going to have as a government is that same thing you have as delegates who go electing candidates for a political party properly mandated by well-constituted congresses.
Well, it's laughable when this issue of clumsiness or primitivity is brought to bear in this argument. Now, if that argument is tenable anywhere, why do we allow direct election? Because even when we conduct governorship election, the election for the office of even councillor, president, House of Assembly members, the entire society vote. Everybody within that enclave, every Nigerian vote. Nigeria is as much as close to 180 million by estimation, and they all participate to ensure that that election takes place. Now we are talking of a primary election. Members of APC in Rivers State may not be more than 2 million. Now just suppose that with a group of PDP and other political parties, Now you see that argument is not tenable, is flawed. That argument is dead at arrival because the modernization that has taken place, you begin to misinterpret the history, the historiography of what happened in Greek states. Now, here we are talking of allowing the people who will be represented to participate, whether indirect is democratic or not. Which one is more democratic? I have reaffirmed that if the context we are discussing is democracy, the concept of democracy simply means majority rule, and nothing else can be more democratic than when a greater number of persons participate. And there is no form of argument, there is no form of quest, there's no form of debate that will now allow indirect primary where few persons elected. Ordinarily speaking, those who are party escorts are elected to man the affairs of the party. There's nowhere they are the primary function of their duty is to go and elect those who will govern or who become candidates. It is by mere principle. Now, if a party is allowed to participate directly by choosing its members who will form candidates, it gives the party credibility. It gives the members opportunity to say, look, we are the people who said he should come out. It gives everybody in the party to say, this is my candidate, and work for it. In the general election, every Nigerian participates. Why is it not clumsy? Why do we allow INEC conduct election and then everybody, when I mean everybody, Tom, Dick and Harry, comes out to vote? So, summarily, I think that at any point in time, this argument is placed in a right-thinking manner would conclude. It becomes unarguable to state that indirect primary is more democratic than direct primary, because direct primary involves more participation, which is in tandem with the foundation, which is in tandem with the philosophy of the classical philosophers found in Greek states. And therefore, I applaud all those who will involve direct primary in the choice of their candidates, as we have done and have elected our candidates to be the governor of Rivers State in 2019 election in the person of distinguished Senator Magnus Inge Abe, and myself as the candidate of APC in the Chioma Federal Constituency through a direct primary.
Thank you very much. I am sure that I'm not the only person that heard and is still hearing that Nigeria is at 58 learning democratic practice and values. If everybody that should know is saying so, then I'm not surprised that Nigeria is still discussing direct primaries at 58 years old. It is a concept of election by primitive societies that are swallowed by corruption, where everybody who is given any slightest opportunity tries to skew the system in the favor of his pocket. So there is mutual distrust, and that is why we will still be discussing something like direct primaries at this time of our life, which no longer exists in any civilized society on planet Earth. So, for me, the fact that you have refused to grow at 58 does not justify why you still be participating in primitive activities as 58 years old. No, it does not. There is nothing like mass participation in governance beyond that of the majority of their people, giving their mandate to a few to represent them, whether at the party level or at the governmental level. There is nothing other than that. Of course, what you do at the ward level is that same thing that INEC does when you become a candidate. It's the same thing. You go to the ward as Congress to elect your delegates. The same thing INEC does. It goes to every polling unit in every ward in order to conduct elections for candidates to eventually emerge as elected, to represent those same people that have handed over their mandates to those other few persons to take decisions on their behalf. It's the same thing. It's just the same thing. So if everybody in the Congress does not constitute the people that go and decide who becomes a candidate, then in the same vein, there is no also way that everybody in the country will go and sit down on the same chair so that the president will be able to, the presidentum, whichever we will call it, should be able to decide for all of us in the country equitably. So as far as I'm concerned, indirect primaries by political parties, when properly done according to the rules of engagement, is to me the best form of expression of democracy. Thank you very much.
Well, that's about it for Hardball this week. You've heard it all, and that's where it all comes down for it this week. Remember the theme, very important. Between direct primaries and indirect, which is more democratic? For Lord Frank, indirect primaries is more democratic. But for Honorable Jerome Chukwemeka Okere, direct primaries is more democratic. Which one is more democratic for you, our august listeners? Well, you take your decision. We thank all the analysts very much profusely for the way they have handled their parts. Indeed, it gladdens the heart to find out that whichever form they believe in, they have taken it to a logical conclusion. And for that, we thank Lord Frank, who is monarch, publisher, and the leader, the Bridge Organization Global. Lord Frank, we thank you very much for the way you have accepted it and the opportunity to come to the studios of Today 95.1 FM for Hardball. Despite your busy schedule, you were able to make it down here. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Today FM 95.1 and to all our numerous listeners. I will always say the pleasure is always mine.
We also thank Honorable Jerome Chukwemeka Okere for finding out time from his tight schedule to come down to the studios of Today 95.1 FM for this same Hardball to educate the populace, of course, on which one he feels, and perhaps like minds, that is more democratic. And of course, he says it's direct primaries. Thank you very much, Honorable Jerome.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful, Chief Emmanuel Ndukwe. And I'll say that anytime I'm invited, I'll be pleased to be here. We must continue to do our part to ensure that Nigeria becomes better.
Arimani Emmanuel Ndukwe, the uncle for Hardball, saying that it is indeed a weekly affair. Every Saturday between the hours of 8:30 and 9:30, you have it on rolling in Today 95.1 FM. Remember again that Hardball stands to educate you to see far from contrarieties. Take out the silence and throw away the insilence. Which way do you pitch your tent? We do not forget Enoch, who has put fingers here and there to make this program a success. Expect us next week at the time mentioned. Bye-bye.
Okay, all right. All you need to know about this one is that
95.1 FM. Such a unique style.
When the weather becomes strict and everything becomes unsteady, the only way to go is tune to Today 95.1 FM. And the world of information, entertainment, and education will be served as breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Welcome to the show. You're listening to today's Quest. A newspaper review segment is what we've
Now
got.
who says I can't bring the party to your house right now? Because, even if it's raining, I still bring the heat right here.
I am here for you, and I know you are here for me.
It is surely the best 15 minutes of football you can find anywhere on radio.
People. Back here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. Today, 95.1 FM. Nothing but the best. Nothing but the best.
BBC World Service at 15 GMT. I'm Audrey Brown in London with Focus on Africa. Who threw a grenade into a camp housing thousands of refugees in Malawi? In Liberia, the main jail is turning away new inmates because it's too full. We'll hear how they plan to manage that. Gabon aims to replace the Great Lakes region as the prime gorilla viewing destination. Can it succeed?
What is important now is not only to carry on the habituation of the gorillas, like the current project in Loango, but we also want to multiply the groups of gorillas who are habituated.
I'm Kevin Hans, and in sports, Morocco are looking back with pride on their historic run to the World Cup semi-finals. We'll have all the reaction to last night's defeat by France.
That's all on the BBC. Tonight in Focus. First, the news.
Hello, I'm Debbie Russ with the BBC News. The United Nations Human Rights Chief says Russian troops have killed hundreds of Ukrainian civilians in acts which may amount to war crimes. Volker Turk accused Russia of carrying out the summary execution of people who clearly presented no threat.
We documented the killings of 441 civilians, 341 men, 72 women, 20 boys, and 8 girls. The actual figures are likely to be considerably higher, as we're working to corroborate an additional 198 alleged killings in these regions.
Investigators say they couldn't find a single case where a Russian soldier had been held accountable for the killings. Vladimir Putin has promised Russians he will keep the country's economy going despite wide-ranging Western sanctions. The Russian president said more gas would be sold to China and new trading partnerships developed in Asia, Africa and Latin America. The Russian economy is expected to shrink by 2.5% this year. The British government has announced an inquiry into allegations that soldiers from a special forces unit murdered scores of unarmed civilians during night raids in Afghanistan. The Defence Minister, Andrew Morrison, said it would look specifically at SAS raids known as deliberate detention operations between mid-2010 and mid-2013. An Islamic court in the northern Nigerian state of Kano has sentenced a prominent Muslim cleric to death by hanging after finding him guilty of blasphemy. Isaac Khalid reports from Abuja.
The cleric, Sheikh Abdul Jabbar Nasir Kabara, has been detained by the authorities since July last year after being accused of spreading lies against the Prophet. The trial is being closely followed by Nigerians. Sheikh Abdul Jabbar has the right to appeal against the judgment. Death sentences in Nigeria are rarely carried out, largely due to human rights concerns. Instead, convicted people are usually kept in prisons indefinitely. Kano is among a dozen states in northern Nigeria where Sharia is practiced alongside the country's secular law.
Harry and Meghan have given new details of the breakdown in their relationship with the British royal family. In their new Netflix series, Harry describes a meeting to decide the couple's role with his brother William, his father, then Prince Charles, and grandmother, the late Queen Elizabeth.
It was terrifying to have my brother scream and shout at me and my father say things that just simply weren't true, and my grandmother, quietly sit there and sort of take it all in. But you have to understand that from a family's perspective, especially from hers, there are ways of doing things, and her ultimate sort of mission, goal / responsibility is the institution.
Meghan discusses having suicidal thoughts and says the institution would not allow her to seek help. World News from the BBC. The head of the European Parliament has promised wide-ranging reforms in the wake of this week's corruption scandal. 4 people have been accused in connection with bribery allegations, with investigators finding more than €1.5 million in cash at a variety of premises in Brussels. Roberta Metsola promised there would be a wide-ranging review of the Parliament's Code of Conduct.
I am putting together a wide-ranging reform package. This will include a strengthening of the Parliament's whistleblower protection systems, a ban on all unofficial friendships groups, and a complete and in-depth look of how we interact with third countries.
A UN study on workplace violence suggests that more than 1 in 5 people employed worldwide have experienced some form of on-the-job violence or harassment. The UN Joint Survey asked more than 74,000 people about their experiences in 121 countries and territories. It found nearly 1 in 10 workers had suffered physical violence, and 6% of employees said they'd been subjected to violence and harassment of a sexual nature, most of them women. The former Wimbledon champion, Boris Becker, has been released from prison in Britain after serving 8 months of a 2.5-year sentence. He was jailed for hiding assets to avoid paying his debts. Celestina Olulude reports.
The 6-time Grand Slam champion, who is from Germany, has lived in the UK since 2012 and was expected to serve half of his sentence behind bars. Becker, who is 55, was found guilty in April of 4 charges under the Insolvency Act and jailed for 2.5 years. He now faces automatic deportation because he does not have British citizenship and received a custodial sentence of more than a year.
That's the latest. BBC News.
It's 15:06 GMT. This is Focus on Africa from the BBC World Service. I'm Audrey Brown, and later in this program, Gabon plans to overtake the Great Lakes region as prime gorilla viewing territory. But can it?
Gorillas take a long time to develop into maturity and have offspring. So it is necessary to ensure better protection of the environment in order to effectively grow their population.
And we have the letter. This week it's from the Kenyan journalist Joseph Warungu. Now, at least 5 people have been injured in a suspected grenade attack in a refugee camp in Malawi. The Dzaleka camp houses more than 60,000 people displaced by the turbulence of the genocide in Rwanda in 1994 and the regional war that followed. Most of them come from Rwanda, Burundi, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Sub-Inspector Gladson Bumpa speaks for the police in that part of Malawi, and he told me more.
5 people have been injured following a suspected grenade explosion at the refugee camp in Doha. The incident happened on Wednesday night, 14 December, 1900 hours at the camp near Zarika main market in district that is in Malawi.
And tell us what more you know about the explosion. Who threw it? Was it directed at specific people? And were there any fatalities?
One of the victims, Butei Federi, who is a refugee leader for Burundi community, was chatting with his secretary, Bruno Nashime. A certain person lighting matches before throwing an unknown object, which he suspects to be a grenade. 5 people have been injured and they are currently at the Doha District Hospital where they are receiving treatment.
Do you know why this explosive device was thrown at these specific people?
At the moment, we are interviewing the suspect to hear much from him. What was the motive?
Tell us a little bit more about the people in the camp. Who are they and how many people are in this camp?
At the camp, there are refugees who are coming from different countries like Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, some from other countries like Tanzania. But the majority are Burundians, Congolese, and Rwandans.
And how long have they been there?
Since the establishment of Zarika to be a refugee camp.
Does this happen frequently, that you have an incident like this one that you're now investigating? An explosive device being thrown at someone?
This is the first incident to be reported here in Doha, Malawi. So as police, we are on the ground investigating the matter to find out from the suspect what really happened or what was the motive of throwing the grenade to those people.
It must be concerning to you as a police officer, right?
Yes.
Especially in light of the fact that an explosive device is in a camp like this one. What does it indicate to you? I'm wondering whether it's looking at a security lapse.
This is a wake-up call to Malawi police service because the refugees are not allowed to keep dangerous weapons as it has been reported. So as police, we are on the ground investigating the matter, conducting day and night patrols to establish maybe there may be some other equipments or other devices which are a threat to the life of the people.
So are you tightening security at the camp? Are you looking for other weapons perhaps that maybe, that this wasn't a one-off, that it might be something that sparks off, a wider fight?
The security is very tight. We have a listening police unit there where officers are manning the camp day and night.
How would somebody have been able to bring an explosive device into the camp?
These refugees are coming from different countries, that is war countries like Rwanda, Congo, and Burundi. So we never know how, because they do come in large numbers. So we cannot be able to trace that this one is keeping some dangerous devices, as I have already stated.
And you say that this camp has been peaceful up to now?
Yeah, the campus has been peaceful. It is only yesterday that this incident occurred.
And that was Sub-Inspector Gladson Bumpa there talking from Malawi. Now, Liberia's largest prison, the Monrovia Central Prison, has begun turning back new inmates. Justice Minister Frank Musadin told the BBC that this is due to overcrowding and that people with minor charges are being turned away. The current facility, which was intended to hold just around 300 inmates, now accommodates more than 1,600 people. Our reporter Jonathan Pelele has been following developments and he's on the line now from Monrovia. Jonathan, just explain to us exactly, the people that are being turned away, where they're going to be kept, where they're going to be held, and what kinds of charges, are the people that would be turned away? What would they have been guilty of?
Well, the Justice Minister, Mr. Musa Din, who in fact is also chairing a cabinet in the absence of President Weah, is saying that people who are being turned back are sent back into communities so that it is community leaders to oversee the activities. It's a kind of controversial decision, really, but he said that they have to be sent back into communities, and the charges are very low charges, he said, like misdemeanor charges. But the point here is that people in communities are not comfortable with the decision. But what they have said to us is that for now, community leaders who are community chairpersons elected by community people will be the ones in whose care the accused will be until decisions are made.
Just tell us about what these misdemeanors are, because it's a legal term that we're not necessarily familiar with. So what charges would these people have been sent to jail for?
Well, if someone is accused of maybe slashing a woman's handbag on the street, or maybe just doing some stealing in the community, but magistrates, local magistrates who are really sending these people into prison, my understanding is that they want them to pay some money, and when the money is not paid, so what they do is to send them to the Monrovia Central Prison. So different charges, but which are not murder, which are not heinous charges, are the ones for which people are being sent by the communities.
It does beg the question, doesn't it? Why are people being sent to prison for what are relatively minor charges? But tell us this. Why is that prison, Monrovia Central Prison, the main prison, so overcrowded? More than 1,600 people when it's meant to have held just 300 people.
It is because Monrovia was set up to accommodate just about 300,000 people. But the city is now home to 1.5 million people. And as the population increases, of course, crime rates too will be on the rise. And so, and because the judiciary is under pressure, there's no money for some of the cases to be looked into. A lot of the people in the Monrovia Central Prison are pre-trial detainees. They have never had their days in court, and so it's a situation that has overwhelmed the justice system here. And the only way out is to keep them there. But periodically, human rights organizations go there to investigate what's happening there. But the answer is, it is because Monrovia is itself overly populated after the war.
Okay. Jonathan Pelele, thank you very much. That was Jonathan Pelele talking to us there from Monrovia. This is Focus on Africa on the BBC World Service. It's 15:14 Greenwich Mean Time, and Victor Silva is here with the roundup.
Thanks, Audrey. U.S. President Joe Biden has told the first U.S.-Africa summit he is hosting that Africa has a crucial role in tackling the many problems confronting the world, from climate change and conflicts to the establishment of the global world order. Analysts say it's part of an effort by the Biden administration to boost its credentials with the continent amid growing Chinese investment and Russian activity in Africa.
We've known for a long time that Africa's success and prosperity is essential to assuring a better future for all of us, not just for Africa. We're still grappling with the deadly pandemic, facing down war and instability, addressing economic challenges with global impact, fighting rising food prices. We can't solve any of these challenges without African leadership at the table. And I'm not trying to be nice, that's a fact.
Zambia has started rationing power supply after a large drop in the water levels at Lake Kariba, the key supply for the country's hydroelectric power plants. Last week, Zimbabwe, which shares the lake with Zambia, began implementing 18-hour outages. Lake Kariba is the biggest source of power for both countries. The BBC Shingai Nyuka reports.
Zambian authorities say the rationing is to avoid a complete shutdown of its power station. Low rainfall and excessive use of water for power generation has reduced water at Kariba to critical levels. Zimbabwe had used up its annual water allocation to produce power and was eating into Zambia's remaining share. Zambia is now restricted to producing 800 megawatts of power and Zimbabwe 300 megawatts daily.
The International Criminal Court has rejected an appeal against the conviction and 25-year sentence for a Ugandan former child soldier who went on to become a commander in a rebel group, the Lord's Resistance Army. Last year, Dominic Ongwen was found guilty of crimes against humanity and war crimes committed in northern Uganda between 2002 and 2005.
Thank you, Victor. And now, sport. Painful sport. Painful sport with Kevin Hand.
I hope that's no reflection on me. Thank you, Audrey. Morocco coach Walid Regragui has set his sights on winning the 2024 Africa Cup of Nations, that following last night's defeat by France. The injury-hit Atlas Lions were the first nation to reach the semi-finals of a World Cup from the continent, but the French ran out 2-0 winners. Regragui spoke of his pride and that the nation and the continent were behind them, but said that this must now be the benchmark for Moroccan football and that succeeding Senegal as African champions will be their priority. Morocco will face Croatia in Saturday's third-place playoff, a game you can hear live on the BBC World Service from 14:30 GMT with Nishat Lada. Centre-backs Romain Saiss, who left the field after 20 minutes last night, and Naif Aguerd, who was also named in the side but failed to start the match, remain injury doubts for that game. And there must be an economic case to keep South African sides in European Rugby's Champions Cup. Those are the thoughts of Exeter boss Rob Baxter today. Audrey.
Thank you very much. That's Kevin Hand with the sport. Now in the Gambia, 2 activist women have set up an initiative called Beyond Advocacy to train women and girls how to protect themselves if they're attacked. Gender equality has improved in the Gambia since the 90s, when the country was almost at the bottom of all kinds of charts. But according to UN data, 1 in 3 women still experiences physical violence. Now, those figures are not far off from global averages, but they're still too high for the women who've decided to tackle it, as Omar Wali found out when he visited the Beyond Advocacy Training Center.
Hello participants, welcome to another session of Empowerment Self-Defense. There are 5 different principles of Empowerment Self-Defense. We will go through each of those principles.
That is Lisa Kamara, a certified self-defense trainer and co-founder of Beyond Advocacy, taking the participants through the training session. Women and girls are trained to defend themselves when they are confronted or attacked.
For example, I am hitting an attacker. I can hit together and say, no! No! Your voice always has to be there. When you're fighting, no matter how intense the fighting is, always remember to use your voice.
The training is not martial arts, so the trainees need to be physically strong to learn and practice self-defense.
So the person attacks you from the front. This is the other palm is defending your face. Do not underestimate the palm. It can do wonders.
Some of the training sessions can be very intense for those who experience sexual and gender-based violence. Modlamin Davis is the co-founder of Beyond Advocacy. He feels strong about women's role in ending sexual and gender-based violence.
We've realized that women especially continue to be raped and sexually abused on a daily basis in the Gambia. We've been doing advocacy for a long time. Now we want to go beyond advocacy to ensure that we put a stop in the cases or issues of sexual and gender-based violence in the Gambia. We don't train people to kill, we train them to protect themselves and have them escape from dangerous situations.
Beyond Advocacy combines advocacy and physical training both online and offline. Sexual and gender-based violence is said to be a cycle and a learned behavior, which takes many ways and forms, such as between intimate partners, in schools, at workplaces, catcalling, among others. These young girls were among hundreds of women who graduated from the training here.
My name is Aisato Jallo. I am 23 years old. I was so amazed when I came across something that you can do to defend yourself when certain things, sexual and gender-based violence, are happening in our society. The trend is going on. Women are vulnerable in our society, especially students. Sometimes we, the students, will go to school and close late hours. And then when you're going home, you are mostly vulnerable to certain things like being attacked sexually or other things. So having these soft skills in order to defend yourself when the need arises was something that I cherish. And then, so basically that has built my confidence that I'll be able to defend myself when the need arises using these soft skills such as yelling. My name is Mariama Kume. We all know in the society we are in right now, we the young girls per se, we are very vulnerable. Me going through the self-defense training, it has helped a lot, and I have the confidence that whenever I've come across any perpetrator, that I'll be able to defend myself. Self-defense has helped me a lot. Whenever you come across an attacker or in our society, I'll be able to use the tools.
With the prevalence of sexual and gender-based violence in many communities in the Gambia, Beyond Advocacy is succeeding in empowering and inspiring women to stand up and defend themselves when they are being attacked. It is hoped to make a difference in their lives and the safety of women when they are in danger through the self-defense techniques it has been teaching them.
And that was Omar Wali in Banjul. Now next we go to Gabon, which is currently making a concerted effort to be one of the main destinations in Africa to observe gorillas in their natural habitat. Currently on the continent, Uganda, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo are the main locations. This will give the Gabonese tourism industry a much needed boost, but there are challenges along the way. Jewel Kiriungi was at the Luango National Park on the west coast of Gabon to find out more.
In the west of Gabon, deep in the tropical forest of Luango National Park, one of the only two in the country where you're able to observe gorillas, Kamaya, the dominant male silverback, calls out to his family of 10. They quickly move towards him. The female adults are carrying their young ones on their backs. This particular family is used to humans thanks to the Luango Gorilla Project and can be visited by tourists. The project started in 2005 and studies the behavior of this species of gorilla, Western gorillas.
About 20 years ago, Gabon created 13 national parks as a way to boost conservation of its natural resources. However, managing these areas remains a challenge due to limited funds, and some of these areas are difficult to access.
Martha Robbins has been leading research on gorillas across Africa for over 25 years. She founded this project in Gabon and runs a similar project in Uganda.
Those programs have been going on for decades, but just in terms of what is possible and how tourism really can contribute to conservation of endangered species.
It was only in 2016 that they first allowed gorilla tours to take place. The aim is to reinvest the profits into conservation like the governments of Uganda and Rwanda. According to one of the leading institutes, Max Planck, based in Germany, the number of Western gorillas is falling by 3% each year because of threats such as poaching, disease, and destruction of habitat. The government has funded troops called eco-guards to patrol the national parks in the country. They have done this in order to try and prevent poaching. In Luango, they are led by Bachoi Ulrich.
In order to grow the gorilla population, the park must be well protected and well managed. Gorillas take a long time to develop into maturity and have offspring. So it is necessary to ensure better protection of the environment in order to effectively grow their population.
The National Agency for National Parks, ANPN, is the government authority responsible for the protection and promotion of Gabon's national parks. They hope to boost the country's ecotourism through its vast gorilla population, as Letitia Oyubi, the ANPN Director of Communications, explains.
What is important now is not only to carry on the habituation of the gorillas, like the current project in Luango, but we also want to multiply the groups of gorillas who are habituated.
The Gabonese government works closely with conservationists in order to ensure that there is no negative impact on the gorillas. They limit the numbers of tourists, the length of time spent with them, and require negative COVID tests prior to each visit. Martha Robbins again.
So much of conservation in this region, I feel like we're just kind of putting little drops of water on a fire, and I really hope in a few decades we have we still have what we have here.
The Gabonese government hopes to roll out the current scheme in Luango to other national parks in the country. The ambition is to maintain the delicate balance between tourism and conservation.
Jewel Kiriungi in Luango National Park. Now let's go to Nairobi for our letter today. Joseph Warungu has been keeping an eye on the restless first family of Kenya, but can he do that as well as try and get himself a cut of the recently launched Hustler Fund, which wants to help Kenyan youth and entrepreneurs get affordable credit to kickstart their businesses?
A core principle of the governing United Democratic Alliance Party is that every hustle matters. And so when the president launched the Hustler Fund 2 weeks ago, over 1 million people registered to access the funds. But the money they received was tiny. Most loan applicants received about 500 Kenya shillings, the equivalent of $4. One man who dreams of starting a barber shop said the $4 was barely enough to cover his own haircut. While believing that my hustle also matters, I too gave the Hustler Fund a try today. In less than 5 minutes, my mobile phone application happily announced that I'd qualified for 2,000 Kenya shillings. That's about $16, the equivalent of 4 haircuts in downtown Nairobi, but not enough to launch a media empire. And it's to be paid back at an interest within 2 weeks. Meanwhile, over at State House, the first family is overworking, while President Ruto is crisscrossing the globe.
Every day, every hour, when the big stories break, depend on our 24-hour news team to bring you the latest. Today, 95.1 FM. Whether it's happening in Port Harcourt, South, Nigeria, or around the world, we've got you covered on air, online, delivering balanced news and unbiased analysis. Today, 95.1 FM.
This is Today, 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
A very good evening to you. This is the World News at 10 on your Premium Talk Radio, Today 95.1 FM. I am Gloria Karibi Tambri in the headlines. APC describes President Muhammadu Buhari as a model of discipline and integrity on his 80th birthday. INEC warns attacks on facilities may affect 2023 elections. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar promises to rid Nigeria of cankerworm if elected president in 2023. On the foreign scene, Algerian court convicts 6 people belonging to secessionist movement. Now the details. The ruling All Progressives Congress says President Muhammadu Buhari remains a source of great inspiration to many Nigerians as a model of discipline, integrity, resilience, and patriotism. In a statement by its National Publicity Secretary Felix Moka in Abuja to mark the 80th birthday of President Buhari, the party celebrated his courage and sagacity in steering the ship of the country from rough tides to safe harbor on behalf of all stakeholders of the party. Moka then prayed for long life and excellent health for the president as he leads the country and party to even greater heights. The Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, has felicitated President Muhammadu Buhari on the occasion of his 80th birthday celebration today. In a statement by the force spokesperson Olumuyiwa Adejobi, the IGP noted that Buhari's calculative approach to issues was remarkable and truly inspirational and had served as a guide and motivation to the NPF leadership. It also assured of the unwavering commitment of the Nigerian police to the actualization of the police reform agenda and bequeathing to Nigerians good governance, safety, and peaceful coexistence. The Independent National Electoral Commission Chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, has highlighted the effect of attacking its offices ahead of the 2023 general elections. Yakubu warned that the series of attacks on INEC's facilities may compromise the 2023 general elections if not checked. He issued the warning while addressing the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating the attacks on the offices and facilities of INEC in Abuja. The INEC chairman stressed that while the commission was determined to continue with preparations for the elections, the persistent attacks on its facilities constitute a serious threat. Yakubu, however, vowed that INEC would continue to its preparation for the 2023 general elections despite attacks on its facilities. Lately, hoodlums have attacked INEC offices in states like Imo, Enugu, Osun, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Ogun, Lagos, Ondo, and Bayelsa states. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has vowed to rid the country of cankerworm and restore peace across the states if elected president of the country in 2023. Abubakar made the vow during the PDP campaign rally in Owerri, Imo State. The PDP party flag bearer said if elected, he would visit the various zones in the country to discuss the stakeholders on ways to end insecurity amicably. Atiku, who said from time immemorial he has associated with the Igbo nation, assured that if elected next year, he will set aside a total sum of 10 billion naira for businessmen and women in the state. He also promised to create jobs and provide an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, especially in the entire southeast zone.
When you elect me president, I will come here, sit down with you, discuss with you what is your problem, and together we will work out a settlement. And I want to assure you that if I have the opportunity and you elect me, business, trading will pick up again. Because in my policy document, I said I am going to set aside $10 billion just to empower women and young men in business. We will provide jobs. If you don't want jobs, we will provide business for you. We will provide an environment where business will thrive. I know the entire Southeast is yearning for restructuring of the country, and it is one of the 5 items on my agenda. I want to assure you that you will have no cause to regret by voting PDP.
On his part, the national chairman of PDP, Senator Iyorchia Ayu, who warned that the party will not tolerate division among members, assured the PDP administration, if voted into office, will bring development and tackle insecurity.
We will not accept division in our party. Everybody must work together to produce victory. On the 25th of February, everybody should come out as one united PDP family. Mobilize everybody, vote for all your candidates for National Assembly. If you vote Atiku Abubakar, I want also to make it clear to you, the issue of insecurity, which is the big problem in Imo, will be a thing of the past. Because you need a secure environment for people to prosper. Atiku is going to bring development, but you can't develop in an atmosphere of insecurity. We shall tackle as a party the issue of insecurity in every part of this country so that our people can go back to what they like doing best.
Meanwhile, a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, Femi Fani-Kayode, has said the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, is not the stepping stone to Igbo presidency. Fani-Kayode said Atiku, who has been vying for the presidency in the past 30 years but failed, cannot be the stepping stone to Igbo presidency. Atiku had promised to bequeath the presidency to Igbos if they elect him in 2023 during his campaign rally in Anambra State. In reaction, Fani-Kayode said nobody can stop Igbos from producing the president when the time comes. The Central Bank of Nigeria has countered claims that its new policy limiting cash withdrawals is targeted at point of sales, POS agents in particular. The CBN's Director of Banking Supervision, Mustafa Haruna, dismissed the claims, citing the December 6 circular of the Apex Bank, which stated that in compelling circumstances, should an individual or organization need an amount above the set limit, there are conditions to fulfill. The CBN has stated that in such instances, not exceeding once a month, withdrawals above the limit shall be subject to processing fees of 5% and 10% for individuals and corporate entities, respectively, in addition to enhanced due diligence and further information requirements. Haruna explained that the CBN had seen exponential growth in the agent networks around Nigeria, describing them as quite ubiquitous.
We've seen an exponential growth in the agent networks around Nigeria. The agents are quite ubiquitous. There's hardly any nook or cranny in Nigeria that you go, you won't see one agent outlet or the other where they do cash in, cash out services. So such customers can take advantage of those services. But to your point around maybe the quantum of naira such a customer will need, of course, you can always go to your bank and say, this is my business. So this is not something new. We feel we should take things to a high level if we must make progress. Let me just correct an impression. Not in any way are they endangered, and that is why we made that provision. Should you need cash, people will need to just see this as a policy that is intended at contributing to economic growth and development.
Goods worth millions have been destroyed in a fire in Ose main market, Onitsha, Anambra State. Report says the fire, which started this morning, gutted 3 shops where drums of chemicals are sold. While the cause of the fire is still unknown, the report said no life was lost in the inferno. Confirming the incident, State Fire Chief Martin Agbili said immediate intervention of his men prevented the fire from spreading to other shops in the market. This is the World News on Today 95.1 FM, but Hackett Voice of the People. After the short break, we'll bring you more news, sports and foreign stories. Stay tuned.
Every hour, when the big stories break, depend on our 24-hour news team to bring you the latest. Today, 95.1 FM.
Minutes past 10. A warm welcome back. The news continues. Women are more committed to the electoral process in Nigeria than the male folks. This is according to the Labour Party South-South Zonal Woman Leader, Ibitimi Akan, who spoke on the sidelines of a South-South conference of the party in Port Harcourt. Akan said even on election days, it is the women who are at the forefront of the voting process. She further expressed hope that women will become more involved in politics and governance in 2023.
Without women, there will be no election. There is no election in Nigeria. Women, at the day of the polling, you see some men, you see them in their houses, they just want to sit down, watch what is happening online and all that. But you see that women, they don't mind leaving everything that day to keep up at the polling unit for them to make sure that they cast their vote. Yeah, they have more determination because right now we are fighting for the betterment, for the future of our children. With the current narrative on ground, this time around, women, we are fully involved.
Ibitimi Akan also advised Nigeria women to ensure they obtain their permanent voter cards ahead of the election.
Yeah, that was the main important for us to let the women know, the leaders. We taught them about the power of leadership. Because when they understand, they will now know those on the grassroots. We tell them what they need to do. It's needful for them to go to their houses to carry taxi or buses to their domo to take them to the center to get their PVC. So we taught them on that so they understand. Yeah, we are 100% ready.
Meanwhile, the Chartered Institute of Project Managers of Nigeria, SIPMEN, says the issue of building collapse in the country would be a thing of the past if projects are awarded to professionals by merit. This was made known at the end of a 4-day training organized by the regulatory body for project managers in Nigeria and the induction of new members into the institute. The team lead, practice subcommittee of SIPMEN, Inemi Stevens, said the institute would henceforth investigate cases of building collapse in the country and sanction individuals or organizations who do not engage the services of certified project managers.
We all understand that most things we do in this country, there is always an insider influence where it is persons that have, let me use the word, connections that will get projects. So it is not really on merit, and it is a big problem. So now the institute wants to start a new way of managing projects in the country where sanctions will be placed on people that do not adhere to the statutory mandate of the institute, because the institute is regulated by law. Then organizations that execute projects without certified project managers will be sanctioned. Why would a building collapse in the first place? It is because certain corners are cut. And who are the people that cut corners? They are people that are not certified. Professionals have a name to protect. Quacks don't. So when projects fail, it is because quacks are used.
On her part, Ramota Stephen, who was among those trained and inducted into the institute, said they were trained to work and negotiate with stakeholders on how to deliver standard projects.
The training we had on DUCAP methodology, we learned a lot about introduction to project management, the change management, how you can change from one project to another, or you change people. We also learned about how you can work with your members, negotiate with stakeholders and other subcontractors and all that. So it was a very rich experience. The training was able to teach us how we can work with other members of the society in construction or any other field you find yourself in. As an architect, I'm always into construction and building designs. So how I can work with other members of the team and how I can start from initiation stage to bring in members of the team into the projects we're going to be working on and have a seamless project at the end of the day and be able to deliver on time and with budget.
More than 56,000 projects worth over 17 trillion naira have been abandoned across the 36 states of Nigeria. The Chartered Institute of Project Managers of Nigeria, SIPMEN, which made this known during its annual general meeting, investiture and induction of new members in Port Harcourt, stressed the need for projects to be awarded to professionals who are trained to execute projects that would stand the test of time. President of the Chartered Institute of Project Managers of Nigeria, Victoria Okoronkwo, said it was imperative to use effective and efficient project management to redirect the narrative from business as usual to drive national growth and development. Okoronkwo, who is also the chairman, governing board of Project Managers of Nigeria, urged members of the institute to always give their best in project delivery, warning that practice instrument issued to them would be withdrawn if they are found wanting.
We actually want the people of this zone to know that project management is no longer business as usual. People should look at project management as what will help us develop this nation. We want to address it through getting members. By the time we get our members, they will be in all the projects. And when any project becomes a substandard project, we'll hold that person responsible. Make sure that every project has a project manager who will give account of that project. They'll be afraid because you're already giving them practice instrument. The practice instrument is what empowers them to go out there and do the right thing. Or where we found any of them wanting, we'll withdraw it.
On their part, the vice chairman of SIPMEN Resourcery, Peter Datame, and the team lead, practice subcommittee of SIPMEN Resourcery, Nemi Stephen, who expressed worry over the resources put into projects that have failed in the country, called on the federal government to ensure that professional project managers are engaged to carry out projects in the country.
Nigerian project environment has been characterized by a lot of abandoned projects. Some of these projects, even if they complete it now, will not be used. They are already obsolete. And some of them, in order to complete it, it will even cost 4 or 5 times their original budget. Nigeria has been labeled by a lot of countries as a project management graveyard. If you drive along the road, you will see a lot of abandoned projects. It is very disheartening. What we are doing now is equipping project managers that they will succeed, and most importantly, they will be sustainable. The institute is also charged with the mandate of removing quacks from the system.
Get the right project managers certified by the CIPMN. Some projects are there because of litigation, so the project manager will know what to do. The important thing right now is for the government to ensure that project managers certified by CIPMN are the ones handling projects, and the Establishment Act that guides the CIPMN is more or less enforced by the federal government.
On the foreign scene, an Algerian court has convicted 6 people belonging to the Movement for the Autonomy of Kabylie, a secessionist movement classified as a terrorist group. They include the co-president of the Amazigh Congress and a university professor, Kamira Naid-Sid, who was first arrested by Algerian authorities in August 2021. Also convicted was a former police officer and activist, Slimane Bouhabs, who lived as a refugee in neighboring Tunisia, who mysteriously returned to face trial in the country. In sports, the A-League Men's Melbourne Derby was abandoned after both the referee and the Melbourne City goalkeeper were injured by a spectator during a mid-match pitch invasion at Army Park. City keeper Tom Glover and referee Alex King were both hit in the face by a Melbourne Victory fan brandishing a metal bucket that had been used to extinguish flares. A TV cameraman from Australian station Network 10 was also injured. A city statement said that Glover required several stitches and went to hospital for follow-up checks and scans, likely with a concussion. In entertainment, Iranian government has arrested a prominent actor, Taran Alidosti, after she voiced support for the 3-month-old protest movement triggered by the death of a woman in custody. Alidosti was detained for publishing false and distorted content and inciting chaos. She is best known for her role in the Oscar-winning 2016 film The Salesman. Alidosti's most recent social media post was on December 8th, the same day Mohsen Shekari became the first person executed by authorities over the protests. The actor has been a prominent presence in Iranian cinema since she was a teenager. And that was the news as edited by To end the news, here is a summary of the major stories. The APC has described President Muhammadu Buhari as a model of discipline and integrity on the occasion of his 18th birthday. INEC has warned that attacks on its facilities across the country may affect the 2023 general elections. We told you that the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has promised to rid Nigeria of cankerworm if elected president in 2023. On the foreign scene, you also heard that an Algerian court has convicted at least 6 people belonging to a secessionist movement. That was the news as edited by Stella Sasongo. For comment and inquiries, please call 0818-389-2850 or send your emails to news@todayfmlive.com. You can also read our stories on www.todayfmlive.com. I am Gloria Caribbean Tonbury. Good evening, many thanks for listening. Happy weekend. Have a good night.
Today's entertainment, today's sports, today's issues, today on Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
This is Today 95.1 FM. To copy this tune, press 9.
This is Today 95.1 FM.
To carry news and information, press 5.
They are politicians, all of them. They know what they do.
So they know how they attack each other. To stay connected all day, press 1.
The person who raised the name is the one who made the public know about.
Good afternoon and welcome to the World News on your Premium Talk Radio station.
We are your Premium Talk Radio station. Today 95.1 FM. The station with a unique dial.
Some people will carry human head in their boots and they will not charge them because they are collecting bribe.
When they go collect salary, then go say government need to pay them way.
All these taxi drivers safe. They don't even get papers. Even driver's license safe, they no get.
Hey, you back there. Hold on there.
Their cars are in bad shape. Very, very bad shape. They have no ethics of driving. That is why they will continue to bribe so that they can have their way.
I will shoot you now. I will shoot you. Headlights, you no get. Side mirror, you no get. Motorway to carry animal. Now you take put for road to carry human being. You don't even wind the motor when rain they fall. You no get conscience at all. Take, you be number 15. You be number 5. More than enough to get on a number.
Let's allow them do their job. Do not obstruct justice by giving or taking bribe. Avail yourself a check. Even you, Oga driver, stop reckless driving and always update your papers. This information
is brought to you by Today 95.1 FM.
Voice of the people.
Officer, give me change. Now 1,000 I give you. Government tell us say police now our friend. I remember what my papa tell me. See, make I mind who I dey call my friend.
Young lady, you're under arrest.
Oga, for waiting now. What I do?
When you get to the station, you'll find out.
Hey.
Look, don't show, everybody don't drop out.
I say I know they follow you go anywhere.
Hey, you know they go anywhere. Go and ask about Officer Mark. You see, if I deal with you, nothing will happen. Nobody will question me. I will deal with you.
Oga, leave my clothes now. Wait, you won't take care of me. Oga.
Do you have 200,000?
200,000 for what now? What I do where you want to collect 200,000?
If you get to the station, you pay more than that.
200k for waiting. I don't get that kind of money. I don't get that kind of money. Oga, remember, you were once like us before you got into force. You have brothers and sisters like us in this society. The law says protect lives and properties. But what do we see today?
This life don't last forever.
Please remember, we have just one life. Why can't we live for one another?
Things will get better if you just hold my hand.
This message is brought to you from Today 95.1 FM, Voice of the People.
95.1 FM, Voice of the People.
And we're back. When the weather becomes strict and everything becomes unsteady, the only way to go is tune to Today 95.1 FM. And the world of information, entertainment, and education will be served as breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Welcome to the show. You're listening to today's Quest. A newspaper review segment is what we've
got. Now who says I can't bring the party to your house right now? Because, even if it's raining, I still bring the heat right here.
I am here for you, and I know you are here for me.
It is surely the best 15 minutes of football you can find anywhere on radio. People.
Back here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. Today, 95.1 FM. Nothing but the best. Nothing but the best.
You're about to listen to
Get Get ready. It's the world of broadcasting as Today 95.1 FM brings you entertainment, information, education as they unfold every day.
Talk radio. I listen to a lot of talk radio.
95.1 FM.
Hello, I'm Claudia Hammond, and this is Health Check from the BBC, where we scrutinise the latest health stories for you. And to help me do that today, I have Tabitha Mwangi, who is the Programme Manager at Cambridge Africa at Cambridge University. Hi Tabitha, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Claudia.
Good. Now later on, we're going to have your pick of the brand new findings from the medical journals with studies you've chosen from Uganda and from Tanzania. But first, we thought we'd do something we haven't done for a while now and take a more detailed look at COVID. Now, depending on where you live, your perspective on which way the pandemic is heading is likely to be quite different. And some places have seen recent spikes higher than they've ever seen before. We'll be hearing about one of those, Hong Kong, in a moment. But before that, we wanted to take you on a whistle-stop tour of COVID rates around the world. Now, the total global number of new cases has jumped by 10%, the first rise since January. And Tabitha, you're going to give us a rundown of how that overall increase is playing out across different continents. Let's start with Africa.
So in Africa, we've passed the peak now, and lots of countries are now loosening the restrictions, which had been quite severe for a long time. When you look at South Africa, for example, they've lifted a lot of restrictions in the last, I think it was today actually, the last few days, so that indoor and outdoor venues can now take 50% of capacity. Wearing face masks in in outdoor spaces is no longer mandatory, but in public indoor spaces like shops and malls and things like that, that still remains. And that's the same in Kenya, where most of the restrictions have gone. Wearing face masks in outdoor spaces is no longer mandatory, although in indoor spaces you're supposed to do that. And there's unrestricted numbers for churches and sports events. So it appears that across the continent we are slowly loosening those restrictions that have been really tough on people.
And we've also seen restrictions easing across much of Europe as well. So some countries such as Denmark and the Netherlands seem to have passed their most recent peak, and the number of new cases has been falling. But some countries are still seeing a rise, probably driven by the subvariant of Omicron called BA2, which seems to spread even more easily. So in the UK, for example, Germany, Italy and France, cases have been rising again. Tabitha, how about North and South America?
So in North America, the infections and death rates have been falling, but just recently there's a slow increase in places like New York. So there's that worry that this might lead to more cases. But restrictions are being loosened, though. Restrictions are being loosened, whether it's masks and other COVID measures, they're being loosened across North America. Brazil is also seeing a peak, but their peak was in February, but the deaths are falling.